Committee will come to order. Thank you all for being here today. As usual, I want to welcome everyone in the audience, our guests. For those of you come to order, strange, but we have. Thank you all for being here today. As usual, so any of those I want to welcome everyone in the audience, our guests today. For those we have a zero tolerance, strange, but we have any type of communication, attempt to. So any of those witnesses that may show up doesn't look like severely will be arrested. We have a zero tolerance ban from the committee for any type of communication. So with that, on a more happier note, we're glad to see all of you here today who and banned from the committee for agreed to be with us. So with that, on a more on a happier note, we're glad to see all of you here today, and we're going to consider the nomination to be with us. Mr. Warren Stevens, who take on these difficult positions that you've been nominated for to be ambassador to Turkey. Consider the nominations of Mr. Warren Stevens to be ambassador to the United Kingdom, Italy. Before we ordinarily make opening statements, however, and we have Mr. Tilman, committee member, Senate, to be ambassador to members who would like to introduce. Before we ordinarily make opening statements, however, so let's start. Senator Haggerty, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to congratulate all of our nominees today. It's an incredible honor to represent the greatest nation in the world. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to congratulate all of our nominees, good friends, someone I've known for more than a decade. That's Tom Bareric, represent the greatest nation nominee to be U.S. ambassador to Turkey. It is a credible honor. Tom's an international business leader. Introduce one of my good friends, someone I've known for more than a decade. Nomination comes at a very important time nominee to be U.S. ambassador between the United States and Turkey. Tom's an international. When you consider Tom's background and his qualifications, whose nomination President Trump at a very important time for relations between the United States and Turkey. In Ankara. When you consider Tom's background over a century ago, Tom's grandparents, you can see why President Trump wants him, the United States, as from a place that we now call Lebanon, diplomat. But back then, it was part of the Ottoman Empire. Over a century ago, Tom's family settled here, immigrated to the United States. They didn't forget their from a place that we now call Lebanon, a region where Tom, but back then, it was part of the Ottoman Empire. Tom himself had humble settled here, growing up working in the grocery store that his parents owned in Southern California. To a region where Tom, by the time Tom went to college, he had a deep appreciation. Tom himself had humble beginnings, growing up working in the grocery store that his parents owned in Southern California. So after by the time Tom went to college, no surprise, he had a deep appreciation Tom began his professional from his family, helping to promote business culture between the United States and the Middle East. So after graduating from law school, it's built this foundation in the decade since, professional career, showing he's an incredible leader, business ties with an exceptional ability to work across differences in culture and politics. Tom's built on this foundation in the decade since, and showing he's an incredible leader with an exceptional ability to work across differences in culture and politics. Recognized Tom to both the rare Legion d'Honneur Award and to create in 2010 for Tom's contributions. In fact, Tom's proven success in bridging interests across the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East with the rare Legion d'Honneur qualified to serve as U.S. ambassador to Turkey, a country. Tom's proven success in bridging interests across the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East make him Tom's qualities don't stop to serve as U.S. ambassador to Turkey. He's also he also served as Undersecretary of Interior for President Reagan, but Tom's qualities don't stop there. In other words, Tom has the heart of a public servant. He also served as Undersecretary of Interior for President Reagan, a better place, and he's an avid philanthropist. As a former ambassador myself, a public servant, I believe strongly intent on making that America needs diplomatic leaders abroad who know how to make deals. And as a former ambassador myself, American interests, I believe strongly, if confirmed, that America needs diplomatic leaders abroad who know how to make deals. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the chance to introduce Tom Bareric. I look forward to our hearing this morning. If confirmed, and I encourage Tom will make exactly that type of ambassador. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the chance to introduce Tom Bareric. I look forward to our hearing this morning. And I encourage all of my colleagues to support his nomination.
Ranking Member Shaheen, thank you for holding this hearing
now hear from
on the nomination of my friend and fellow Texan Tilman Fertitta. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next ambassador to Ranking Member Shaheen, thank you for holding this hearing until the nomination of my friend and fellow Texan San Marino's population 33,000 to be the next ambassador to Italy, 860 and San Marino. So, congratulations on your nomination. I learned something this morning. I've had the pleasure of knowing Tilman for quite some time. We all know him as a successful entrepreneur. Congratulations on your nomination. Who was well on his way to expanding. I've had the pleasure of knowing Tilman for quite some time. Seafood restaurants in Greater Houston. We all know him as a successful later become one of the largest and dining and hospitality enterprises in the country. His first two seafood restaurants in Greater Houston not only one of the nation's later become one of the largest businessmen, dining and hospitality enterprises and a philanthropist. What I later learned is that time and resources one of the bettering most prominent businessmen. Over the years, I've witnessed Tilman make an incredible impact on the city of Houston, much of his time and the entire state of bettering the community. He was born in Galveston. Over the years, I've witnessed Tilman make an incredible impact on the city of Houston, Sicily, and the entire state of Texas. His father owned a seafood restaurant on the island. His family had settled after immigrating got his start in the business. In the late 1800s, his father peeled shrimp. His father owned a seafood restaurant down the road. He used the profits from that Tilman family business to secure a small loan after school to acquire what would later become an empire. Years down the road, one of the things you learn about Tilman, as I have, the man keeps striving and challenging himself to acquire what would later become an empire. Tilman's realization one of the things you learn about Tilman, as I have, the man keeps striving and challenging himself as an advocate for a strong relationship between the United States and the American dream will serve his credentials extend beyond his prominent business career, though. As an advocate, he was first chosen by a relationship between the United States and served on the Board of Regents for the University of Houston. His credentials extend beyond his prominent 2009. He was first chosen by former Governor Rick Perry his first 6 years to serve on the Board of Regents for the University of Houston. System in 2009 to 2 additional and the impact he's had on that system during after identifying an opportunity for the university's flagship campus to further Houston as one of the leading cities in the country and the world for medicine. After identifying an opportunity for the university's flagship campus to further Houston as one of the leading cities in the country in 2022 for medicine. He's also invested in the growth of other facilities on the flagship university campus, relatively new school of medicine profile in 2022, including its basketball stadium. The growth of other facilities. Those of you who are following March Madness will tell you that the Cougars are in the finals, and we're very proud of them. And I know Tilman is as well. Those of you who are following he's also served as the chair of the Houston Police Department Foundation, where he helped ensure our men and women in uniform have the support that they need. He's also served as the chair of the Houston Police Department Foundation, where he helped ensure our men and women in uniform have the support that they need on how to effectively and safely reopen pandemic businesses across the Lone Star State. Unique experience and background. These are just a few of the things that Tilman has done to better his community and safely reopen businesses across the Lone Star State. Bring a wealth of experience. But these are just a few of the things that Tilman has done to better his community in our state. As ambassador to Italy and San Marino. Tilman will bring a wealth of experience members of this committee, but with the entire Senate to the nation to help shape our partnership with San Marino ally. And I have an opportunity to work do a stellar job members of this committee, but with the entire Senate to support his nomination, our partnership with this critical ally. And I have no doubt the same. He will do a stellar job. Thank you, Chairman Risch. Thank you, Chairman. So it's my honor to support his nomination committee, and I hope allowing me the opportunity to introduce this exceptional Houstonian and Texan. Thank you, Chairman Tilman, and you and your family and other members of the committee for allowing me the opportunity to introduce this exceptional Houstonian and Texan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman,
you and your family for your
and Ranking Member Shaheen. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to appear here today to introduce my friend. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Tilman and Ranking Member Shaheen. Thank you. The United States relationship for allowing me the opportunity to appear here today to introduce my friend. It's grounded in centuries of diplomacy and exchange. The United States relationship with Italy, the millions of Americans who are grounded in centuries of diplomacy and exchange between our countries, including and the millions of Americans who are tied to their Italian heritage. They are a founding member of NATO. Italy is a U.S. military installations that are important to our national security. They are a founding member of NATO and host several U.S. military hardware and technology from U.S. companies. To our interests. I was glad to see Tilman nominated for this job. And they are a key trading partner for this job. Buying machinery, military hardware, Tilman and I have known each other for a long time. I was glad to see Tilman nominated for this job. We became friends when I was living in Houston, Texas. Tilman and I have known each other for a long time. And I think the best way for me to introduce Tilman, we became friends when I was living in Houston, Texas, about how he was there for me and my family. And I think the best way for me to introduce Tilman on the worst day of our lives is to tell a story on the morning of January 8th, how he was there for me and my family, my wife Gabby, staff. On the worst day of our lives. And she told me on the morning of January 8th, meeting with her constituents, 2011, I got a call from what she called the Congress on your corner, a gunman had opened fire and she told me on her. that while meeting with her constituents, was at a Safeway store at what she called the Congress on your corner, had been shot. A gunman had opened fire. We hung up from this call on her. I was in shock. Thought to myself that this phone call just happened, and that Gabby had been shot. And I called Gabby's chief of staff back. I was in shock. And she told me that this was real. Thought to myself, did this phone call just happen? Gabby hadn't just been shot, but she was shot. I called Gabby's chief of staff back. And she told me that this was real. Was to Tilman. And Gabby hadn't just been shot, because I needed to figure out she was shot a way to get from Tucson or from Houston to Tucson as fast as possible. Was to Tilman. And I knew that because I needed to figure out there to help me. A way to get from Tucson. Well, it wasn't just my Houston to Tucson as fast as possible. It was my next 5 or 6. And I knew that Tilman was to him. Would be there to help me. And he was in a meeting. Well, it wasn't just my next. When he first looked down and saw, it was my next 5 or 6 phone calls. Was saw that I called back. He knew it must be. He was in a meeting, and he called me back immediately. When he first looked down and dropped everything, a missed call. Within minutes, he had a plan back. He knew it must be something serious, and he called me back immediately. It was a couple hours later during that flight that, and within minutes, cable news reported he had a plan for me that Gabby had died. It was a couple hours later during that flight that moments of my life. Cable news reported that Gabby had died. And Tilman refused to believe it. And that was one of the darkest moments of my life. And he refused to let me believe it. And he said to me on that trip, Tilman said, refused to believe it. Mark, there's no way that she is dead. And he refused to let me believe it. And he kept saying it to me over and over again. On that trip, he said, of course, as Mark, we all know, no way he was right. Dead. Cable news was wrong. And he kept saying to him, I arrived at Tucson Medical Center before she was even out of surgery. Of course, as we all know, he was right. Tilman's friendship met everything to me and my family. Thanks to him, I arrived at Tucson Medical Center before she was even out of surgery. When I think of the worst moment of our lives, Tilman's friendship met days and weeks and months that followed. Tilman, and when I think of one of those people that got us through our lives and that I relied on, the impossible days and weeks and months significantly relied on. Tilman is a problem solver. One of those people that got us through it. He's a leader and that I relied on. And he's the right person for this job, significantly relied on. And I'm glad that all of you on this committee will have the opportunity to get to know him through this process. And he's the right person to get to know how he will serve. And I'm glad that all of you on this committee will have the opportunity to get to know him through this process.
Thank you very much,
and to get to know how he will serve our country. So thank you again for having me.
For the nominee. Thank you very much. We know you're busy. You're welcome to stay, of course, if you'd like. Understand the pressure. For the nominee. We know you're busy. You're welcome to stay, of course, if you'd like. Senator Bozeman, I understand you've got a really wide circle of friends. I don't know how many introductions you've made to this committee so far. You may as well take a seat up here with us. Senator Bozeman, in any event, really wide circle. You're always welcome here, and the floor is yours. You've made to this committee.
It's good to be back here with you.
You may as well take a seat up here with us.
Ranking member Shaheen.
In any event, you're always welcome here, and the floor is yours.
It's an honor to be here today. It's good to be back here with you, Chairman Cotton, to introduce my friend and Ranking member Shaheen. And good morning, Warren Stevens, President Trump's nominee. It's an honor to be here today with my friend and colleague, Senator Cotton, to introduce my friend. I would also like to say hi to his family. Warren Stevens, President Trump's nominee, attendance to United States Ambassador to the United Kingdom. For nearly 4 decades, Warren Stevens, his family, has been part of the company founded in 1933 on a handshake by his father and uncle. For nearly 4 decades, Warren Stevens has been part of the company founded the nation's largest investment bank on a handshake not based on Wall Street. And we are proud that humble beginnings still in Arkansas has become under his leadership, our nation's largest investment bank, employing not based on people at one location, Little Rock. Proud that it's now boasting over 1,000 employees under his leadership. The business grew from as well as in offices 100 people at one location, Little Rock. Throughout his career, over 1,000 employees in 28 locations, instilled in him domestically by his father and office practice responsible and debt management. Throughout his career, and resilient, devoted enough to be still instilled in him the next day by his father and stewardship helped Stevens Inc. Debt weather the height of the Great Recession, be prudent and resilient, and actually add talent to be still rather than lay off employees. That stewardship helped Stevens Inc. capacities weather the height of the Great Recession, tireless crusade, and actually add for capitalism, championing its ability to expand in its opportunity and help others realize the American dream. Truly tireless crusade over 3 decades for capitalism, championing its ability to expand, opportunity and help others realize the American dream and abroad. Over 3 decades, he and his family have also distinguished themselves as pillars earned a reputation of Central Arkansas community through a long history in the U.S. civic and philanthropic. He and his family have also distinguished themselves as pillars of Central Arkansas community through a long history of civic, as well as working to revitalize our state's capital city. Their efforts have been a driving force the lives of others. Programs that support education. I've had the privilege of knowing the arts for many years. I'm as well as working to revitalize our state's capital city, skills and relationships, and enrich the lives of others. To bear as our ambassador I've had the privilege of knowing Warren for many years. I'm thankful to President Trump for choosing as many talents, skills, and relationships crucial to bear as our ambassador to the United Kingdom. His extensive experience and expertise for choosing the private sector to fill this dedication to enhancing the relationship between our two nations will serve him well experience and expertise America's in the private sector and his dedication to enhancing his clear relationship between our two nations, but as he serve him well suited to the role as he represents a strong support nomination in this critical colleagues. To do this. Clear he's not only qualified,
thank you, Senator Bozeman.
but is extremely well suited
all of us have other commitments.
I strongly
You're
support
welcome to
his
stay, but
nomination. Urge my
can't
colleagues
understand. So
to do the
with
same.
that,
Thank you.
Senator Cotton. Thank you, Senator Bozeman.
Thank you,
And
Chairman
we
Risch,
know,
Senator
all of
Shaheen,
us
and
have
members of the
other
Senate
commitments.
Foreign
You're welcome
Relations
to stay,
Committee.
but
Good morning.
you can't
I'm honored to
understand.
introduce
So with
today
that,
a remarkable
Senator
family
Cotton.
man, businessman.
Thank you, Chairman
Risch, Senator Shaheen, and members of the Senate,
my friend
Foreign
and fellow
Relations Committee.
Arkansans,
Good morning.
Warren Stevens.
I'm honored to introduce
I've known Warren and
today
his
a
family for many
remarkable
years.
family man,
I'd like to
businessman,
acknowledge
philanthropist, his wife
Patriot,
Harriet,
not least,
and his children,
my friend and
Miles,
fellow
John, and Laura, and
Warren
their
Stevens.
spouses
for their support.
I've known Warren and
during
his family for many
confirmation
years.
process.
I'd like to acknowledge,
Along with his family and many
his
other
wife Harriet
Arkansans
and
who
his
have
children,
the privilege
Miles,
to know
John,
Warren,
and
I'm
Laura,
pleased
and
to
their
offer my
spouses
full
for
support
his nomination
during
and
his
service the
confirmation
next process.
U.S. Ambassador to
Along
the
with his
United
family
Kingdom.
and many other Arkansans
For centuries,
who have the
the
privilege
United
to know
States and
Warren,
the
I'm
United
pleased to
Kingdom
have
have
enjoyed
full
what
support
Prime
for
Minister
Mr.
nomination
Winston
Churchill
Churchill
as the next
originally
U.S.
termed
ambassador
special
to the United
relationship.
Kingdom. This friendship,
For centuries,
forged
on
on
the
the United
front
States
lines
and
of
United
two
Kingdom,
world
have
wars,
enjoyed what
on
Prime
the side
Minister
of
Winston
freedom
Churchill
during the Cold War
originally
is rooted
termed
in
a
our
special
nation's
relationship.
shared history,
This
culture,
friendship,
and
forged on the
democratic
front
ethos.
lines of two world wars,
Our 240-year
on the side
diplomatic
of freedom
relationship
during
is
the
a
Cold
bastion
War is rooted in
of
our two
freedom
nations'
and peace,
shared history,
worldwide.
culture, and democratic
Warren is very
ethos.
well suited to deepen
Our
and strengthen
240-year
the bonds
diplomatic
with
relationship
one of our
is
best
a bastion
and oldest allies.
for freedom and peace.
Inspired
Inspired
by
by the example of his father,
Warren is
who
very well
graduated from the
suited
Naval
to deepen
Academy,
and strengthen
Warren
the
has
bonds
long
with
aspired
one of our best
to serve his
and
country
oldest
full time.
allies.
I'm pleased that President Trump
Inspired by the
nominated him,
example of his
and
father,
that
who
Warren
graduated
was
from
able
the Naval
to
Academy.
answer the call.
Warren has long
His
aspired
commitment to service has
serve his
guided
country
Warren
full
throughout
time.
his life,
And
I'm
his
pleased
career.
that President Trump nominated him. At 29,
and that Warren
he became
was
president and
able to
CEO
answer
of
the
Stevens
call.
Inc. This
A
commitment to service has
relationship-based
guided
family-owned
Warren throughout his
financial
life
firm that started
and
with
his
a
career.
handshake between his father, Jack,
At 29,
and his uncle,
he
Whit.
became president and CEO of
Since succeeding
Stevens
his
Inc.
father in 1986,
A relationship
Warren dedicated
based
himself
family-owned financial
to building
firm
up
that started
Stevens
with the
in the United
handshake
States
between his
and
father,
abroad,
Jack, and his
including
uncle,
in London,
Whit, where he has spent
Since
considerable
succeeding his
time.
father in 1986,
As the head of
Warren
Stevens,
dedicated himself
Warren has
to
dedicated
building up
nearly 4
Stevens in the United
decades
States
to
and
strengthening
abroad,
business
including in London,
relationships throughout
where
the
he spent
United States and
considerable
across
time.
the Atlantic.
As the
While
head of
simultaneously
Stevens,
Warren
forging
has
relationships
dedicated nearly 4
through service
decades
to
his
his
strengthening
community.
business relationships.
In recent
throughout
years,
the
for
United
instance, Warren and
States
Harriet
across the
spearheaded a
Atlantic,
massive
while
multi-year
simultaneously
fundraising
forging
campaign
relationships
to transform the
service
Arkansas
to
Art
his
Center
community.
into the Arkansas
In
Museum
recent
of
years,
Fine
for
Arts.
instance, Warren and
The
Harriet
museum now
spearheaded a
hosts
massive
a
multi-year
14,000
fundraising campaign
piece permanent
to
collection
transform
and
the
features artists
Arkansas
from
Art
Art
Center
Center
and
into
across
the
the United
Arkansas
States.
Museum of Fine Arts.
Thanks to Warren and
museum
Harriet's
now
vision,
hosts
the museum has
a
become the heart
14,000
of its
piece
community,
permanent
a place
collection
where
and
children and
features
students
artists
come
from
to learn,
Arkansas and across
where
the
neighbors
United
and friends
States.
gather, and where all those
Thanks
who
to
love
Warren and
art
Harriet's
can
vision, the
explore
museum
their
has become
creativity.
the heart of its community.
Warren is
a place
also
where
the
children
chairman
and
and founder
students
of the
come to
Jackson
learn,
T. Stevens
where
Cup,
neighbors and friends
named in
gather,
honor
and
of
where
his
all
late father,
those who love art
launched in
can
2021,
explore
the
their creativity.
JTS Cup showcases
Warren
collegiate
is also
golfers
the
from
chairman and founder of the
NCAA
Jackson T.
Division I
Stevens
schools,
Cup,
named in
historically
honor of
black
his late
colleges and
father.
universities,
Launched in
and the
2021,
United
the
States
JTS
Service
Cup
Academies
showcases
on the
collegiate
nation's
golfers
preeminent
from
golf courses.
NCAA Division I
In addition to
schools,
student athletes,
historically
Warren
black
actively
colleges and
supports
universities,
numerous universities,
and the United
including
States
his alma
Service
mater,
Academies
Washington and
on the
Lee.
nation's
His
preeminent
dedication
golf courses.
to and support for
In addition to
education
student athletes, Warren
also
actively
extends to the
supports
Episcopal
numerous
Collegiate
universities,
School in
including
Little
his
Rock,
alma mater,
where he
Washington
serves
and
as
Lee.
chair
His
of the school's
dedication
foundation
to
board.
and support for education
Time and time again,
also extends
Warren
to
has
the
answered the
his call to serve others. School in Little Rock. And now he serves as chair to serve his country's foundation, a critical role at a critical time. Time and time again, Warren has spent a lifetime building and fostering strong relationships with his family, his clients, and to serve his country. I think he's exactly the person America needs to lead our strong. Warren has spent a lifetime building and fostering strong relationships with his family, his clients, and his community. of the United States. I think he's exactly the person America needs to lead our strong special relationship. And I urge all with the United Kingdom to join me as our next ambassador of the United States to the Court of St. James. Thank you all, and I urge all of my colleagues to join me in supporting Warren's nomination.
A round of 5-minute questions from the senators. What we're going to do now is hear from the nominees. I'm going to make a few remarks, and Senator Shaheen, and we'll go to a round of 5-minute questions from the senators. You're welcome to stay, of course, first is hear from the nominees. Overlapping meetings and what have you. So then I'll make a few remarks. But senators, so with that, we'll hear. You're welcome to stay from the nominees. We understand everybody's got Mr. Stevens, overlapping meetings and what have you. So thank you for coming. So please. So with that, we'll hear about 5 minutes from anything you have to say. Obviously, beyond that, Mr. Stevens, we'll start with you, include within the record. But please keep your remarks to about 5 minutes. Anything you have to say. Obviously, beyond that,
Ranking Member Shaheen,
we'll
members of the committee.
within the record. But the floor
it is an honor to appear before you today as President Trump's nominee to be the ambassador to the Court of St. James Committee. I'm truly grateful to President Trump for placing his confidence as President Trump's nominee important duty to be the ambassador to responsibilities of this position. I'm truly grateful. I commend President Trump's plan in taking decisive and purposeful action as he wastes no time in implementing his agenda. I commend President Trump's plan in taking decisive and purposeful action as he wastes no time. If confirmed, I promise to advance the America First agenda throughout the United Kingdom not only work and to build upon the special relationship that is so critical. If confirmed, I promise to advance the America First agenda. I want to thank my good friend Senator Bozeman and to build upon the special relationship for their kind introduction. So critical. My home state of Arkansas is fortunate. I want to thank my good friend Senator Bozeman and Senator Cotton because their subject matter expertise. My home state of Arkansas is fortunate to have them represent us in the U.S. As my senators referenced in their subject matter expertise, I count my family as my greatest blessing in life. Formidable. I want to thank my family. As my senators referenced in their introductions, I count my family as my greatest blessing in life. To the committee, I want to thank my wife Harriet and I have been married for 43 years throughout this process, which I'd like to given me her unwavering support. My wife Harriet and I have been married for 43 years, and I love her dearly. Throughout, I'm grateful she has given me her unwavering support and every day. She is the backbone of our 3 adult children, and I love her dearly. John, and Laura. I'm grateful. All 3 of our children today are married to wonderful people every day. That Harriet and I have 3 adult children: Katie, Miles, Mary Olive, and Laura. All 3 of our children have blessed us with 6 grandchildren that Harriet and I consider to be our Rollins, Lillian, Katie, Parker, Mary Olive, Caroline, and Warren. Our children have blessed us with our 6 grandchildren, our daughter Laura, Rollins, husband, Lillian, Parker are also here with me today. I'm delighted that our son John instilled in me the value of her husband, Cliff Brookshire. These 2 brothers grew up on a farm in Prattsville, Arkansas. My father Jack and my Uncle Whit instilled in me the value of hard during the Great Depression. These 2 brothers grew up on a farm in default at 10 cents on the dollar. Eventually established an investment banking. My dad and Uncle Whit instilled in all the Great Depression the effort required to achieve at 10 cents on the dollar. When I was 29, my father named me the CEO of all with whom they worked. For nearly 40 years, I worked to grow the family business into a global financial institution. When I was 29, my father named me the CEO of Stevenson. That our children are now managing 40 years, I worked to grow the family business into a global financial institution while maintaining the important principle of focusing on that our children are now managing not just transactions. I'm confident they will continue to grow the business building and maintaining the important cornerstone of my career on relationships and will be a guiding principle, just transactions. I am confirmed that same commitment to building and maintaining relationships. The United Kingdom is one of our closest allies and will be a guiding relationship is built on shared interest and values to the UK. Mutual respect and the United Kingdom is one of our closest allies and prosperity. Our special relationship is built on every area, interest and values, trade, mutual respect, and a commitment to UK is a strong partner in tackling the toughest challenges. Our collaboration spans every area, as the UK is a top contributor to NATO exchanges. If confirmed, I will encourage the UK to lead on advanced challenges throughout the world. Long-term, as the UK is a top contributor which should be structured and paid confirmed, I will encourage the UK to lead on advancing plans in Northern Ireland. I will work closely with the UK government, which should be all stakeholders, and paid for. We abide by our promise to ensure Northern Ireland to our friends in Northern Ireland and stable. I will work closely with the UK government and all stakeholders. Our partnership is clearly demonstrated to ensure Northern Ireland remains peaceful. The UK is a major bilateral economic partner with the United States. Our partnership is clearly demonstrated by our deep economic benefit of this partnership. The UK is a major bilateral economic partner with the United States. Fair, however, it is critical even stronger people receive and ensure the Americans continue to be the people the UK ambassador. I will work to make this relationship fair. For decades, I have been a proponent and ensure the Americans continue to be the people the UK depends upon. I believe it is even more critical that we arrive. For decades, I have been a proponent. Any agreement should include public and private post-Brexit. I believe it is even more critical and legal frameworks are very real assets. Any agreement should include public and private methods of raising the rest of the world. Our depth of capital markets and legal frameworks. Our partnership with the UK is ripe with opportunities to make Americans safer and more prosperous of the world, and I'm eager to take advantage of it. Our partnership with the UK is ripe with opportunities to make Americans incredible legacy of the Americans who have been ambassadors to the Court of St. James. I'm deeply humbled by this nomination. I recognize the incredible legacy of the Americans who have been ambassadors to the Court of St. John Adams, five of whom, quote, later became our obligations to our country. So let me close with the words with our first of those appointees, Chairman Rich John Adams, Ranking Member Shaheen, quote, thank you. Our obligations to our country never cease. Appear before your committee, and I welcome Chairman Rich, Ranking Member Shaheen. Thank you again for this opportunity to appear before your committee, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you so much, Senator Cornyn. Mark Kelly, thank you for those kind words. Senator Cruz, always thank you for your guidance. Thank you so much, Senator Cornyn. Mark Kelly, thank you for those kind words. Senator Cruz, 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock last night. Leadership, I very much appreciate it. And Chairman Risch, Ranking Member Shaheen, members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It's an honor to be with you today. Chairman Risch, I'm President Trump's nominee to be the United States Ambassador to Italy and San Marino. It's an honor for this opportunity. I'm President Trump's nominee to be the United States Ambassador to Italy and San Marino to represent all Americans opportunity such an important role. I'm eternally grateful to President today by my wife Lauren, and I'm honored and family to represent and so appreciate the support of my 5 children. I'm joined today by my wife immigrated to the United States from Italy at the turn of the last century. So appreciate the support of my 5 children. There's no way they could have envisioned the opportunities when my ancestors immigrated to the United States from Italy at the turn of the last hard work and determination. There's no way they could have envisioned my very first opportunities that would come to our family, becoming a national leader in the industry, hard work with more than 60 award-winning from my very first concepts. I continue to grow, becoming a national leader in the industry, Del Frisco's, with more than 60 award-winning concepts, such as Catch, Mastro's, here in Washington, Martin's, Del Frisco's, The Palm, and today my company, through its hotels, entertainment, and gaming divisions, some of them here in Washington, I own approximately 600 properties in 36 states. And today my company, through its hotels, entertainment, and gaming divisions, I'm one of the largest employers in the nation with more than 50,000 employees in 36 states. And today, 15 countries. I'm fortunate to be the sole shareholder. I'm one of the largest employers in the nation with more than 50,000 employees. And today, I'm also the proud owner of the Houston Rockets NBA basketball team, of one of the largest privately held companies in America. I'm also the proud owner of the Houston Rockets NBA basketball team, public, which is currently acquired 6 other public companies, and done over 40 major M&A transactions. I've taken 2 companies public, and the CNBC 6 other public companies, and done over 40 major M&A transactions on many networks, as well as storing in the CNBC Along the way, show Billion Dollar I've been guided by a pair of also appearing regularly as a financial expert on many networks. Know your numbers. Along the way, I've been guided by a pair particularly relevant when addressing the United States $44 billion trade deficit with Italy. which all work closely with businesses. This is particularly relevant when addressing the United States' $44 billion trade deficit with Italy, which all work closely with businesses. I don't ever think that your position is too high to teach others this gap. I still teach every single day, and perhaps even more important, I don't ever think that your position is too high to teach others. I still teach every single day. I'm currently serving my 12th year. I learn as much, if not more, as chairman of the Board of Regents at the University of Houston System, where I have currently serving my 12th year to give nearly $90 million as chairman of the Board of Regents at the University of Houston System, and where I have been so fortunate the men's and women basketball to give nearly $90 million, and where we get to watch the Houston Cougars in the Final Four this weekend, and the Fertitta Center where the men's and women basketball teams play. We've been blessed to visit Italy numerous times over the Final Four this weekend, and I've long been an admirer of the country's culture. We've been blessed to visit Italy and numerous times patriotic spirit. And I've long been an admirer. And no description of Italy would be complete without acknowledging the country's important role patriotic spirit of Western civilization. And no description of Italy made it one of the most visited without acknowledging the country's important role in the history of Western civilization, between our two countries, which has made it one of the most visited places the country is in led the world to this by a phenomenal prime minister. The bond between our two countries who I've had the pleasure of meeting ever. The country is led 2,500 by a phenomenal prime minister business in Italy, and making Italy a key economic ally. More than 2,500 American companies we've received from the Italians over the decades, Italy a key has made economic a key strategic, and the military and defense support Italy has provided the Italians over the decades for Ukraine has made the war, and will host the Ukraine Recovery Conference in July. Italy has provided robust support. One of my top priorities throughout the war is to continue to encourage Italy to be fully engaged and aligned in the President's efforts. One of my top priorities is to continue to encourage Italy to be fully engaged and aligned in the President's efforts to end the bloodshed in the Western Balkans and to build with over $10 billion in regional investments. And Italy is a contributor to the European peacekeeping missions, along with over $10 billion in regional investments. If confirmed, I will encourage the government to the European Italy to continue its robust engagement in the Western Balkans to ensure I will encourage the government of Italy to continue its robust engagement in the Western Balkans to ensure I take the responsibility of being an ambassador, distinguished members of this committee in history, and the full Senate as the most important job of my life. I take the responsibility you have my being an ambassador, and America has my commitment in history to always represent the United States job of my life. President Trump, you have my commitment, pride, and America has my commitment and strength to always represent the United States. I can earn your support and today. President Trump, thank you all so very much. Pride, friendship, and strength. And I hope I can earn your support today. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bareric. I assure you that my colleagues work hard every day to keep your businesses open.
First of all, thank you for that gracious introduction.
Thank you, sir.
For an amazing friendship and for the inspiration you provide to all of us. First of all, thank you for that gracious Chairman Risch, Ranking Member Shaheen, amazing friendship. Members of the committee, thank you for the inspiration you provide to all of us every day. It's an honor to be nominated to the United States Ranking Member Shaheen, Turkey, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity for the confidence and trust he's placed in me at this sensitive and challenging moment. It's an honor to be nominated to the United States complex and globally important region. I'm grateful to President Trump for the confidence and trust he's placed in me. I'd like to thank my family for their unrelenting support in a critically complex and globally important region, which affords me the opportunity to assume these responsibilities. I'd like to thank my family for their unrelenting support by this love and sacrifice esteemed group, which affords me the opportunity to assume these responsibilities. With me today are my four of my 6 children by this Jody, TJ, esteemed group, Red and Nicholas, very important, and my 2 youngest, Elia and Jaden. With me today are my 4 of my 6 children. The strength and purity of their characters, piercing and timeless reflection. And my 2 youngest, the dedication and our unrelenting values of their moms. The strength and purity of their character is a piercing, brief snapshot of my own journey, which is nothing more than a tribute to the American dream values of their moms. Lens to a tiny modicum of success that I may have achieved. Snapshot of my own journey, but has everything more than a tribute to the American by dream. Fate itself of the intersection of a free, democratic, tiny modicum of success that I may have achieved. DNA from an ancient, but has everything to do with the selection of Lebanese and amazing the intersection of a free, democratic, and embracing the story of my family's journey to America, the DNA from the very region cultural to which I may return of Lebanese and amazingly Ottoman culture renders me humbled and grateful. The story of my family's journey to America from the very region to which I may return. The rest is the story of America. Confirmed. My father, grandfather, and our family lived and worked together running a small neighborhood grocery store in Culver City, California. The rest is the story of America. It's the story of America. My father, grandfather, and watching their lifetime of work together running a small neighborhood grocery store in myself a gift of courage. It's the story of immigrants and it's compassion, of America, gratitude, and watching their lifetime of sacrifice and humility instilled in my sister and myself. After a Jesuit education and law school, I began working for a major U.S. law firm, gratitude, representing global engineering banks and construction companies in the Middle East. After a Jesuit education and law school, I began working for a major U.S. law firm, representing global engineering banks and construction companies. Each night I'd go to a majlis of elders and sheep. I was based in the Eastern province in Saudi Arabia, probably at a time before many of you were listening to men sharing stories. Each night I'd go to a majlis of elders, tribal disputes and business, and a dialect I could not understand, which is Arabian coffee. It was in those years men sharing stories that I found my true water, access, tribal disputes and business, and a dialect of immersion and understanding the unknown. It was in those years in the Middle East that I found my over the ensuing years, I found in my business cadence that was the gift of immersion and understanding that I could achieve. In the company and the teams over the ensuing years, I found in my business cadence which was a New York Stock Exchange International to whatever success that I could achieve. And along the road, I was blessed that I built in Colony Capital under the reign of New York Stock Exchange International, where I learned the importance of the intersection. Along the road, I was blessed to have a stint in government, and the brilliance of the people working in the President Reagan civil service, where I learned the importance of the intersection of the executive and legislative branch. And the brilliance itself is our valued NATO partner, sitting at the most strategic crossroads of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Now about Turkey's NATO contributions. Turkey itself is our valued NATO partner, largest sitting at the most strategic crossroads of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Turkey's NATO contributions and LANCOM is one of NATO's largest valued partner in fight against ISIS. Host NATO assets. Turkey has supported NATO stance in support of the Ukraine and supplied the Ukraine with its well-admired, a valued partner in fight against ISIS, as well as mediated the Black Sea grain. Turkey has supported NATO stance in support of the Ukraine passage through the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles under the Montreux Convention. Drones, as well as mediated the Black Sea grain. Exceeded President Trump's guidance. Turkey regulates passage through the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. Trade between our two countries can easily reach the shared goal of President Trump's guidance for financial contributions to reach $100 billion. Trade between our two countries can easily place the poetry and shared goal of President Trump and President Erdogan from America to reach $100 billion. It relates to Turkey as a place of poetry, and I would like to close from Turkey's sun-warmed tourism mountains to America's sprawling central plains. The cradle of our upbringing weaves a quiet tapestry of home. From Turkey's sun-warmed tourism mountains to America's sprawling central plains. The cradle of our upbringing weaves a quiet tapestry of home. The tangy taste of breeze from the Bosphorus, the scent hazelnuts dripping from the trees, the soft aroma of burning cheese and olives. Yet we roam far taste of sumac from the first tender echo of our heritage, a refuge shaped by the soft aroma of burning smells that stir within us. Yet we roam flavors of an ancient being that we first tender echo of our heritage, all because we are allowed the ways we were raised, beautiful smells that stir within us, unbelievable flavors of an ancient being that we can still savor, America. All because we are allowed thank you for your time in this beautiful. Thank you for your attention. Unbelievable. I will relentlessly pursue for the country, America, for President Trump. Thank you for your time. The goal of peace, thank you for your attention, security. I will relentlessly pursue for the country by this body. For President Trump, for all of you, the goal of peace, prosperity, and security. Should I have the good fortune of being confirmed by this body.
Questions, 5 minutes each. This panel today is an important panel. It's one of the most important ones that we'll see collectively. Mr. Stevens, you'll work with America's closest ally. This panel today is an important panel. It's one a few wars between us. Our culture and history are shared collectively during the most pressing challenges. You'll work with America's closest ally, and despite the UK has been a few wars between us, our culture and history are shared. Going forward, we have a number of issues challenges where we need to deepen our relationship. Better trade, the UK has been the indispensable defense cooperation partner. Our chief going forward, we have a number of issues. Of course, the alliance between the U.S. and deepen our relationship remains special. Better trade, and I recognize that the UK defense cooperation takes an enormous political and military risk. Of course, the alliance between the U.S. and the United Kingdom remains special. Friends, I recognize candid with one another. UK, while the UK has political and military risk on behalf of 2.5% of GDP, but European friends need to be candid with one another. Much higher while the UK can project meaningful combat power abroad of GDP, unlike most NATO European security, British military is still much too small. The British UK can project meaningful combat power defense spending, unlike most NATO allies. We need to improve British military spending and defense development. The British defense industrial base to help address these defense spending is too but the Biden administration's failure both to implement the laws on the books regarding AUKUS Pillar 2 is designed to help address these concerns. I expect you will help the Biden administration's failure to implement the laws also on the books regarding AUKUS is important to the U.S. The ongoing negotiations. I expect you will help improve the situation. And the UK's surrender of sovereignty. Also note undermine basing is important to the U.S. and many ongoing negotiations over Diego Garcia. Mr. Fertitta, the UK's Italy remains a close ally and important partner in Europe, which I and a special place stress to a lot of Americans. Join us. More U.S. college students study abroad in Italy. Like the UK, Italy remains a close ally and while there are deep cultural ties, there are a number areas for a lot of Americans. On more U.S. college students study abroad in Italy than anywhere to the Italian market. While there are deep cultural ties, there are a number of regulations, but also because of domestic on trade, U.S. producers have find creative barriers to keep U.S. to the Italian market. Not good. In part because of the security relations, Italy remains also below domestic 2% spending requirement. Find creative barriers based on U.S. challenges that Putin has created for European security space, but also remains due to substantial security threats Italy faces. This is hard to understand based on both the challenges that Putin has created. NATO should prioritize this area, but also due to the substantial security threats Italy faces, should be spending from the Mediterranean help secure from North NATO's southern flank. Well, NATO should prioritize this area force today in NATO's Turkey. Italy going to be the most spending more, which I'm sure you probably already know. NATO's southern flank. Turkey is critical. Is a critical force today. U.S. and NATO ally is going to be the most far from, which I'm sure you probably already lockstep with America. And Turkey is critical. Mutual interest is a critical, not the least of which U.S. and NATO ally. But has been this entire committee was trying to get lockstep with America and Finland supporting to NATO mutual interest. They were a real barrier. Least of which, of course, believe me, we went round and round with them. This entire committee was trying to get. Well, Turkey hosts NATO and American forces, and they supported real barrier efforts toward peace in Ukraine. Round and round. It has troubling ties with Russia and Hamas. Well, Turkey also hosts NATO and American forces, track record in human rights efforts toward and has repressed dissent. It has troubling ties with Russia and outside of its borders. Turkey also recent arrest of a difficult candidate track record on human rights and has repressed particularly concerning both in Turkey's role in Syria security remains a question. Recent arrest we all know Turkey can help stabilize Syria, but we must ensure its actions particularly concerning. And Turkey's role in Syria security remains a question. We're in danger. We all know Turkey can help stabilize Syria, but we must ensure its actions working with Turkey to address long-standing American U.S. counterterrorism and find a path forward. In danger of the lives Turkey must remove some of these irritants in the region. I would especially highlight open to working with Turkey to address S-400 missiles that remain in Turkey's arsenal. Turkey must remove some of forward to hearing your perspective on how to highlight its ownership and of Russian S-400 missiles that remain in Turkey's arsenal. The world faces enormous security challenges as Russia, China, North Korea, Iran work together to undermine the United States and our alliances. We need all our world faces enormous security challenges as Russia, China, North Korea, in the same direction to undermine the United States. And alongside President Trump's administration, we need all our allies, including the United Kingdom, work to rebuild a credible deterrence, growing further the same direction to counter the threats we face. Thank you. Working alongside President Trump's administration.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our nominees today.
And further
we're delighted to have your families here as well.
Senator Shaheen.
If confirmed,
thank you, Mr.
you will be
Chairman,
representing the United States
to our
and
nominees
Turkey,
today, and
Italy,
we're delighted to have your
Kingdom.
families here as well.
Three countries that are important NATO
If confirmed,
allies. You will be
strong supporters of
representing the
Ukraine
United States and
key
Turkey,
to advancing American interests.
Italy, and the United Kingdom.
As you know, one of our
Three
greatest
countries that
security
are
assets
important NATO
is our
allies,
alliances,
strong supporters of
and
Ukraine,
and key to advancing
I
American
agree that
interests.
we need to have our allies
As you
pay
know,
their fair
one of our
share
greatest
defense
security
spending.
assets
To their
is
credit,
our alliances.
our allies have listened,
And at least most of them.
More
I
than
agree
23
that
of
we need to
32
have our
NATO
allies
allies
pay their
are
fair
now
share
meeting the
of defense
10%
spending.
defense
To their
spending
credit,
targets. Our allies have
U.S.
listened,
support
at
for
least
these
most of
alliances
them.
isn't
More
charity.
than 23 of
It's
32
strategic
NATO
investment
allies
in our
are now
own
meeting the
security.
2% defense
Mr.
spending
Stevens,
targets.
as you know, the U.S. and
But
the U.K.
U.S.
share
support for these
historic and
alliances
very
isn't
special
charity,
relationships,
it's, as you said in your
strategic
opening
investment in
statement.
our own security.
Today, that alliance
Mr.
matters
Stevens,
more
as
than
you
ever.
know,
The U.S. and the
the
U.K. is one of our biggest
historic
trading
and very
partners.
special
And
relationship,
last year, we
as
had a
you said
trade
in your
surplus of
opening
nearly
statement.
$12 billion.
Today, that alliance matters
The
more
UK
than ever.
also plays a critical
The UK
role
is
in
one
the
of our
AUKUS
biggest trading
agreement
partners
with Australia.
And last year, we
helping
had
to
a
build
trade
our submarine
surplus of
base,
nearly $12
which means
billion.
high-quality American jobs.
The
and a
UK also
strategic
plays a
edge
critical
over
role in the
China
AUKUS
the
agreement
Indo-Pacific
with Australia,
The
helping to
UK's
build our
role in
submarine
NATO,
base,
which
which
means
means
high-quality American
serves
jobs
as a bridge
between the
strategic
U.S.
edge
and
over
Europe.
China and the
And so,
Indo-Pacific.
Mr. Stevens, if confirmed,
The UK's
I hope
role
you will
in
continue
NATO
to build on
is
the
also
U.S.-UK
critical.
alliance. It serves as a bridge
Mr.
between
Fertitta,
the U.S. and
you've
Europe.
been nominated to Italy,
So,
which
Mr.
plays an
Stevens, if
important role
confirmed,
in
I
shaping
hope you will
Europe and the
continue to
broader
build
region.
on the U.S.-UK alliance.
Italy-backed sanctions
Mr.
against
Fertitta,
Russia after
you've been
Putin
nominated
invaded
to Italy,
Ukraine,
which plays an
it's
important
supported
role
efforts
in
to
shaping
stabilize
Europe
the
and
Western
broader
Balkans,
region, and for managing
Italy-backed
migration across
sanctions
the
against
Mediterranean
Russia
to
after
confront
Putin invaded
Russia's
Ukraine,
influence in
it's
Africa.
supported efforts to
Italy
stabilize
plays
the
a
Western
critical
Balkans,
role in
and for
securing
managing
NATO's
migration
southern
across the
flank.
Mediterranean, to
As you
confronting
pointed out,
Russia's
Prime Minister
influence in
Maloney has a
Africa.
good relationship
Italy
with the Trump
plays a
administration.
critical role
She was
in
the only
securing
European leader
NATO's
to attend
southern
President
flank.
Trump's inauguration.
As you pointed
And
out,
so,
Prime
if
Minister
confirmed, I
Maloney
hope
has
you
a
will
good
continue to
relationship with
strengthen
the
the
Trump
ties
administration.
between the United
She was
States
the
and
only
Italy.
European leader to
Finally,
attend
Mr.
President
Bareric,
Trump's inauguration.
your nomination to lead our
And
mission
so, if confirmed, I hope
Turkey
you will
comes
continue
at a
to
very
strengthen
delicate
the
time
ties we
between the
discussed
United States
when
and
we met.
Italy.
Finally,
Many of
Mr.
us are
Bareric,
concerned by the
your
Turkish
nomination
government's
to lead
arrest
our
of the mayor of
mission in
Istanbul,
Turkey
who was
comes
a
at a
presidential
very
candidate.
delicate time, as we discussed.
We must continue
when we met.
raising issues.
Many
like
of
the
us are
detention of
concerned by the
journalists
Turkish
and the
government's
violent
arrest of the
crackdown
mayor of
on
Istanbul,
protesters.
who is a presidential candidate.
You'll also need to be
We
attentive
must
to
continue
the
raising
to
issues like the detention of journalists
and the violent crackdown
the Syria that
on
emerges from the
protesters.
rubble of the Assad regime
You'll also need to
must
be attentive
stable
to the
and inclusive.
It
cannot be
Turkey's
allowed
interests
to
in
become a
Syria.
launching ground for
The
terrorist
Syria that
attacks
emerges
against
from the
US
rubble
and
of
our
the Assad
allies
regime
must be
and
stable
whether
and
confronting
inclusive.
Putin's aggression
It
or
cannot be
managing the
allowed to
conflict
become
in
a
the
launching
Middle East.
ground for
Turkey
terrorist
is a
attacks
critical
against
ally.
the U.S. and our
It
allies.
controls access to the Black
and
Sea,
whether confronting
and
Putin's
it has been
aggression
vital
or
in
managing
helping
the
Ukraine
conflict in the Middle East,
facilitating the
Turkey
first
is
Black
a
Sea
critical
grain
ally.
deal.
It
Mr.
controls
Bareric
access to the
confirmed
Black Sea,
you certainly will have your
and it
work
has
cut
been
out for
vital
you.
in helping
I
Ukraine,
look forward
such
to
as
hearing the
facilitating
thoughts and
the
insights
first
from
Black
all
Sea
our
grain
nominees
deal.
today. Mr.
Thank you.
Bareric, if confirmed, you
Thank you,
certainly
Senator
will have
Shaheen.
your
We'll do
work cut
a
out for you.
round of 5-minute
I
questions
look
now.
forward to hearing the thoughts and
I wanna
insights
start,
from all
Mr.
our
Stevens,
nominees
with you.
today. Thank you.
I don't know how Thank familiar
you,
you are
Senator
with the
Shaheen.
AUKUS
We'll do
agreement. Round of 5-minute questions now. It's been kicking around. I want to start, Mr. Stevens, with you. And there's a lot of us who worked hard to get how familiar you are with the AUKUS agreement. It's really breathed some life into our relationship with the Aussies. There's a lot of us who worked hard to get underscored the importance of our relationship. It's really breathed some life into our relationship with the Aussies. Can you give me your thoughts on AUKUS? I really think that in decades to come, people will look back at AUKUS because I really think it has the potential of becoming a NATO. Can you give me your thoughts on AUKUS? I really think that in decades to come, people will look back at AUKUS because I really think it has the potential of becoming a NATO-like agreement for the Indo-Pacific.
I would agree with you. I think AUKUS has great potential. Senator, what I've read, thank you for that. I've read about it is unclassified. I agree with you. I think AUKUS has great potential. Now, in my preparation for read about it is hearing unclassified. A lot of acronyms. One of them being in believe it's ITAR, the transfer of technology, and this hearing that seems to be learned a lot of acronyms. One of them being, let's say, a roadblock. It's ITAR, the transfer of technology, and that seems to be AUKUS really get going. Let's say I know there's very sensitive things involved in it, and if I'm confirmed helping that, I look forward to learning more about that. Really get helping find ways. I know there's very sensitive things involved in it. But I agree with you. I think I look forward to learning more about that and helping find ways that we can address those issues. The U.S.-UK shipbuilding industry and the Australian shipbuilding industry great potential as a deterrent, not only for the Pacific. The U.S.-UK shipbuilding industry and the Australian shipbuilding industry,
that it shouldn't be causing.
But as a deterrent,
it's a rub between what we believe. You're right about ITAR. First branch of government believes ITAR is that it shouldn't be causing. Second branch of government. It's a rub between. There's a lot of classified information you'll get after first branch of government believes ITAR is, and what the previous second in that regard. And I hope you'll put it to good use. And there's a lot of classified information you'll get after AUKUS confirmed in that regard. Mr. Bareric, put it to good use, and Turkey get those barriers out of the way. Is the most challenging ally, and I use that word cautiously. Mr. Bareric, about Turkey. They're doing some things most challenging. Awful. I've gone around and I use that word head to head when talking about things that he has done. They're doing some things putting the S-400s in his country. I've gone around and I personally held up head to head fives that he purchased. They're still sitting here in the United States that he has done. Not the least of which is putting the S-400s in his country until those S-400s are gone from. Personally held up the F-35s that he purchased. They're still sitting here in the United States. When we've given them. But I've told him offerings, they're not moving. He hasn't taken until those S-400s are gone. They're a real problem from Turkey. They are. He is a member of NATO. We've given him a couple of offerings. We have to deal with he hasn't taken. I wish you well. They're a real problem. As you go forward with them. They are a number of ambassadors that have been interesting. We have to deal with them. I wish you well as you go forward. Have you had any contact with ambassadors that have been interested in your career from Turkey in recent times? We're getting ready for this.
Thank you, Senator Rich.
Have you had any contact with the
dealing
Turkish
as a businessman
over your
within
career
Turkey?
In recent times,
where I gained great respect, by the way, for
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stevens,
I
understand,
wish you well.
and the committee understands that there are some pending issues regarding your taxes. I appreciate your willingness to cooperate and provide additional details prior to confirmation. The committee understands do I have your commitment to continue to regarding your taxes? I appreciate your willingness to cooperate and provide additional details prior to confirmation. Do I have your commitment to continue to work with the committee on that?
Work with that or any other issue. Thank you, Senator, for that question. Comes to your office or to this committee. You have my commitment to continue
Mr. Fertitta,
to work with that
you
or
mentioned
any
in
other
your opening statement the Western Balkans.
Comes to your office or
an issue
to this
near and dear
committee.
to my heart. Thank you. As you pointed out, Italy has been an important
You
U.S.
mentioned
partner.
in your opening statement the Western Balkans.
Dealing with issues in the Western
near
Balkans.
and dear to my heart.
They are,
as you pointed out, Italy has been an important U.S. partner.
France, Germany, and Italy
in
the
dealing
Quint
with
often plays
issues
a
in the
pivotal
Western
role in
Balkans,
aligning
and
U.S.
they
and
are
European
a member
approaches
of
to
the Quint,
crises in the Western
the U.S.,
Balkans.
UK, France, Germany, and
Now,
Italy.
understanding that
the Quint
the
often plays a
administration is
pivotal
somewhat
role in
skeptical of
aligning
multilateral
U.S. and European
diplomacy.
approaches to crises
If
in the
confirmed,
Western
will you
Balkans.
commit to doing your part to
Now,
maintain
understanding
this
that
important
the administration
informal
is somewhat
mechanism for
skeptical of
diplomatic
multilateral
coordination, diplomacy? If confirmed, will you commit
Thank
to
you for
doing
that
your part
question,
to maintain this important
Senator.
informal mechanism for diplomatic coordination?
Absolutely. For sure, We know how important thank you for that Western Balkans is to Senator Italy. But it is also important to the United States of America. For sure. And we know how important the Western Balkans make sure that America supports. But it is also important to the United States of America, the Republic and I will for sure continue
given the tensions
make sure that America supports
that are heightened right now between Serbia and Kosovo and also
the Republic of Italy.
In Bosnia-Herzegovina, given the tensions having as much diplomacy right now between Serbia and Kosovo and interest also, and focus on what's happening there as possible is important. As much diplomacy
totally agree. And America appreciates at least stepping up
on what's happening there
when
as
other
possible
countries step
important.
up.
Would you agree?
Sometimes totally agree. And America appreciates like America so often has to do. So we're very when other countries step up, for them stepping up like they have, it makes it where we don't have to step up everywhere like America so often has to do.
I said we had a very helpful meeting yesterday,
stepping up like they
I found out that your story and your family's story is very much like my husband's family story. I said we had a very helpful meeting yesterday, and certainly appreciated. I found out that your story and your connection story is very much like my husband's family story. The story about the journey certainly appreciated America and the ability to build on the American dream. Turkey. I also raised an issue story about the journey we have been paying attention to in New England because of ability to build on the American dream. From Turkey, who is I also raised a graduate student that at Tufts we have been paying attention to in New England because of middle of the day by two from Turkey ICE agents who were a graduate student. They took her into custody was arrested and off to a prison in Louisiana. The middle of the day. Now, if you're an ICE agent confirmed as ambassador and you're in Turkey, they took her into custody and Turkish authorities to a prison in Louisiana. An American. Now, if you're an confirmed as ambassador and you're in Turkey, in that way, Turkish authorities your response as ambassador? An American student living
Senator, first
legally
of all, thank you
in
for
Turkey.
being so generous with your
In
time
that
and
way,
your staff's
what would
time.
be
It was
your response
informative,
as ambassador?
Illustrative and inspirational. I really appreciate it. First of all, thank you for being so generous with your time and your staff's time. Hypothetical questions are very difficult. Illustrative and inspirational. I really appreciate it. Emotional and compassionate response to everybody. Hypothetical questions are very difficult. What we're finding in these my very difficult emotional and compassionate response to everybody who's in the midst of something that I can't opine over because I don't have access. Very difficult immigration. But I can tell you everywhere that if an American consequence is something that I violate opine over in any aspect, I don't have access to all the facts. With but any I can tell you their rights that if an American is and freedoms violated in any country, especially if I have the great opportunity to represent of their rights, it's just unacceptable. Duties.
Well, let me ask you though, Mr. Bareric,
in any country, especially if I have the great opportunity to represent America,
I and some other members of this committee worked on a case of Pastor Brunson, who was a North Carolina. Let me ask you though, Mr. Bareric, Pastor. I and some other members of this committee worked on a case of Pastor Brunson legally, who was a North Carolina for over 20 years. Pastor practicing, I think he was a Presbyterian pastor with the church, who had been. And he was arrested by legally in Turkey for over 20 years, unlawfully practicing his faith with the church. Was held, and he was arrested by Turkey. I think, I believe, almost years unlawfully in a prison in Turkey. Was held. And a lot of people on this committee and almost throughout years in the Senate and the government of the United States worked very hard to get him released because he was a lot of people on this committee and throughout. Do you not agree? The Senate and the government of the United States that it's very hard to get him released to ensure that American citizens inappropriately are being protected when they're in other countries. Do you not agree that if they are unlawfully detained, that it's important for us to ensure that American citizens for their release are protected when they're in other countries, and that if they are unlawfully detained, that they should be, that we should advocate for their release?
A very hard line to the Turkey government. And I think in that particular instance, you and President Trump did a fantastic job. My attitude is very hard line process on all of these humanitarian rights that has to constantly be enforced. Fantastic. It's not an event. My attitude is it takes a strong hand from all of you on all of these humanitarian rights that has to constantly be enforced. And I look forward to the opportunity of it takes a strong hand from all of you in delivering from President Trump, who absolutely has a strong two hands. And
you
I
will
look
speak
forward
up
to the opportunity
for
of
human rights
being able to be an
in
intermediary
Turkey,
in delivering that
and
message.
certainly for the rights of American citizens,
as ambassador,
you will
Senator,
speak up
I will speak
for
up
human rights
always
in Turkey,
for the Constitution,
and certainly for the rights of
for
American
peace, prosperity,
citizens, I
and
assume.
security, and I will do the best that I can.
Senator, I will
in whatever
speak up
capacity that I man to
always
protect the rights of
for the
American
Constitution,
citizens in Turkey, for peace,
Thank you.
prosperity, and
I have
security.
questions
and I
for
will do
the other,
best
our other
that I can
nominees, but I will
in
save
whatever
those for the next
capacity that I
round.
man
Thank
to
you, Mr.
protect the
Chairman.
rights of American citizens in Turkey.
Thank you, Ranking
Thank
Member
you.
Shaheen.
I have
Next,
questions
I'm
for
going to
the
call
other,
on
our other
Senator
nominees,
McCormick.
but I will save those for the next round.
Thank you, Senator
Mr. Chairman.
Haggerty and Ranking Member Shaheen, and congratulations to
Ranking
the
Member
three of you
Shaheen.
and to your families,
Next,
and
I'm going to
thank
call
you
on
for
Senator
your
McCormick.
willingness to serve. Mr.
Thank you,
Bareric,
Senator
Haggerty, and Ranking Member Shaheen, and congratulations to the three of you and to your families, and thank you for your
assignment. And I
willingness to
remember
serve.
more than 30
Mr.
years
Bareric,
ago
good to see
traveling
you. We've known each
throughout
other for a
Turkey
long
and then
time.
traveling
And I
across
think you're
the border
taking
from
on,
after I left the
a
Army,
particularly
across the
challenging
border
assignment.
from
And I
Turkey into
remember
Syria
more than 30
at
years ago
Antakya,
traveling
and what you
throughout
see are
Turkey
these
and
incredibly
then
porous
traveling
borders,
across
of
the
course,
border
and
from
enormous
left the Army,
borders across the
and
border
we see
from
that
Turkey
playing
into
out
Syria
today
at Antakya
with Turkey
and what
and
you see are
proxy
these
forces
incredibly porous borders,
having a
of
significant
course,
presence
and
in
enormous
Syria.
borders,
and
we
those
see that
forces have
playing
aligned
out
themselves,
today
as you know,
with
the
Turkey
new
and proxy
Syrian
forces
government
having a
which,
significant presence in Syria.
the governing authority in Damascus,
And,
which is
those
led
forces
by
have aligned
a
themselves, as you
US-designated
know, with the new
foreign terrorist organization.
Syrian government.
So how can the
which,
United States leverage
the governing authority in
its
Damascus, which
relationship
is
with
led
Turkey
by a
to address
US-designated
our counterterrorism
foreign terrorist
concerns
organization
in
Syria?
So how can the United States leverage its
Thanks,
relationship
Senator
with
McCormick,
Turkey
and,
to
as you know, I've
address
been a great
our
fan
counterterrorism
and,
concerns in
I'm honored
Syria?
to be here with you today. Thanks, Senator McCormick. And,
I think
and,
out of
as you know,
chaos
I've been
comes
a great
opportunity.
fan, and what we all agree upon to be here with you today is that the receding of the Assad
I think out of
regime in
chaos
Syria
comes opportunity.
provides an opportunity
What
to
we
rid
all agree
ourselves
upon
of a Shia
is
crescent.
that
the on
Israel's
Israel's
behalf,
behalf,
Assad
on
regime
America's
in
behalf,
Syria,
on Turkey's behalf,
provides
an opportunity to rid ourselves
and to eliminate
of a
an
Shia
Islamic
crescent.
state.
But the Rubik's Cube
On Israel's behalf, on
of
America's
issues
behalf,
with which
on
we're
Turkey's
confronted is
behalf,
enormous. We
and
have
to eliminate
10,000
Islamic
ISIS
state.
prisoners.
But the
We have
Rubik's Cube
35,000
of issues
with which we're confronted is enormous. We have the confusion of 10,000 ISIS prisoners. YPG, which consists of a portion members of their family. PPK, which we have the confusion have assigned as a terrorist YPG, but has been instrumental of a portion helping us, the PPK, in eliminating ISIS. Both Turkey and we have Israel in the Golan Heights, who has a vested terrorist group, but has been instrumental in making sure that that border helping us and the protection of its Druze population. We have Israel in the Golan Heights, who has a vested interest by Russia, making by sure Iran, that border, or in fact by and Turkey, the protection of its Druze population. So I intend to try and cause a discussion, not infiltrated by Russia, by Iran, ourselves, and others. Turkey, so I intend to try and cause a discussion. Quite honestly, we do not have one at the moment. Ourselves and others. And in that regard, again, I think we have an opportunity in which all of the surrounding, quite honestly, we do not have a vested interest in Gaza. Israel, and in that regard, again, Russia, I think we have an opportunity for everybody to sit at a table and say all the vested interests in Gaza, and that's Israel, Ukraine, and Russia.
Mr. Stevens,
An
welcome,
opportunity for everybody
and
to sit
Stevens
at a
family,
table
welcome.
and say, this is
You
the moment.
are taking on an
And
assignment
that's
here
my
where
hope.
both President Trump and the Prime
Mr.
Minister
Stevens, welcome, and
have spoken
Stevens
about
family, welcome.
the opportunity for further
You
economic
are taking
ties,
on an
growing
assignment here
the
where both
economic relationship.
President Trump and the
you
Prime
spend a lot of
Minister
time
have
in
spoken
London, a lot of time
about
in the UK.
the opportunity
Where do you
for
see the most
further
promising
economic ties,
opportunities
growing the economic
for deepening those
relationship?
economic ties? You spend a lot of time in London, a lot of time
Senator
in the UK.
McCormick, thank you
Where do you see the
for-
most
for that,
promising opportunities
question,
for
and
deepening
also
those
wanna
economic
thank you
ties?
for the time you've given me in preparing
Senator
for
McCormick,
since this process started
for that
question. One of the things I've been told by friends and colleagues this process started, Britain, is there one of the things research I've been told by probably friends of ours and colleagues been able to do some things is there we have not been able to do research, and I think there could be a great probably ahead of ours. They've been able to do some things there we have not been able to do. There's also, and I think there could be a great opportunity. There's an opportunity to explore to Mine 10 in Cornwall, which there's also historically not a movement, backbone of that opportunity. They think with new to mine tin and improve Cornwall methods, which they can historically restart back that industry economy. Obviously, we'll need investment to do that and improve. And I think methods they can. That's an opportunity restart for U.S. companies to obviously help provide that capital, if not provide it. But those two come to mind. That's an opportunity in my opening statement for U.S. companies to ability to raise capital, if not both in the U.S. and in the UK. Those two come to mind. We should take advantage of that. I mentioned in my opening statements the ability to raise capital to several both in the U.S. and in the UK. Administration or incoming take advantage of that administration, and they seem to think that's a great idea. So those three, I think, to several other ones that come to my mind. Administration or incoming.
Very good. When you
in the
are
administration,
thinking,
and they seem
when you're
to think that's a great idea. So
over
those
there
three,
in
I think,
your new posting,
are the
you're
ones
thinking
that
about
come to my mind
biosciences,
right away.
life sciences.
Very good. When you
An opportunity, I want you to think about Pennsylvania.
when you're
Pennsylvania has an enormous
over there in your new
life
your new
sciences
posting,
industry.
you're
Southeast
thinking about
Pennsylvania,
biosciences,
it's
life
really a
sciences,
hotbed of innovation.
an
There's
opportunity. I want you to think about
Thank you very
Pennsylvania.
much. Pennsylvania has an enormous
Senator Rosen,
life
please.
sciences industry. Southeast
Thank you, Senator
Pennsylvania,
Haggerty.
it's really a
Haggerty,
hotbed of
I wanna
innovation.
thank
There's
Chair Rish,
opportunity
Ranking
there.
Member
Thank you very
Shaheen
much.
for
Thank
holding
you.
the hearing today. I want
Senator
to
Rosen,
thank
please.
all of our witnesses for your
Thank you,
willingness
Senator
to serve
Haggerty.
and for being here
Haggerty, I want to thank Chair Rish,
as
Ranking Member
well.
Shaheen for
I want to
holding the hearing today.
I want to thank all of our witnesses
Mr.
for your
Bareric,
willingness
I
to
want to
serve
start
and for
with
being
you
here
first.
today.
As you may know,
as well,
Turkey
I want
refused to condemn Hamas for its horrific
Mr.
terror
Bareric,
attack
I
on
want to
Israel.
start with you
It does
first.
not consider
As you
Hamas
may
a terrorist
know,
organization.
Turkey
and has
refused to
provided
condemn
safe havens
Hamas
for
senior
its
Hamas
horrific
leadership
terror attack.
What's
on
more
Israel.
important,
It does not consider
that
Hamas a
Turkey's
terrorist organization.
relationship with Israel
and has provided
has
safe
deteriorated
haven for senior
significantly
Hamas
under President
leadership.
Erdogan, who
What's
weaponizes
more important anti-Semitism
is that
and
Turkey's
anti-Israel sentiment
relationship
to
with
advance
Israel has
policy
deteriorated
interests.
significantly under President
So,
Erdogan.
Mr. Bareric,
who
given all of
weaponizes
this,
How would
anti-Semitism
you
and
have confirmed
anti-Israel
work to
sentiment
ensure
to
that
advance
Turkey
his
stops
domestic
being a
policy
sanctuary for
interests?
Hamas and take steps
So,
to
Mr.
improve
Bareric,
the
given all
security
of this,
environment in
how
the
would
broader
you have
region,
confirmed work to
including
ensure
by
that
taking
Turkey
steps
stops
to improve
being a
its
sanctuary
relationship
for
with
Hamas
Israel, and take steps to improve the
Senator,
security
thank you for
environment
that,
in the
that
broader
piercing
region,
and complex,
including by taking
question.
steps to improve its relationship with
If I were given the opportunity, Senator, thank you for
My
that
attitude
that piercing and complex is to question. Provide if I were given the opportunity, dialogue. My attitude, constant is pressure, constant, consistent focus of what our desire is with the Turkey constant government pressure, constant, consistent the policies and practices that are set forth of what our desire is with the Turkey government are to be implemented. If I'm fortunate policies enough to be and practices that are set by our mission, that direction, those practices, those implemented, will be governed. If I'm fortunate enough by the President of the United States and by this esteemed body. That direction,
let me expand
those
on
practices,
this a little
those
bit
policies
about
will be
Turkey's role
governed
in Syria.
by the
So
President
according
of the
to
United
multiple
States and by
reports,
this
Turkey
esteemed
is
body.
continuing to
let me
assess the
expand on this a
suitability
little
of
bit,
locations inside
about
Syria
Turkey's
to
role in
potentially
Syria.
establish
So
a
according to
military
multiple
base.
reports,
I'm
Turkey
concerned that a
is
more robust
continuing
Turkish
to
presence in
assess
Syria
the
will pose
suitability of
significant
locations
challenges
inside
for Israel
Syria
to
and for our
potentially
Kurdish
establish
allies
a
and must be
military
addressed.
base.
So how
I'm
will you
concerned
work
that a more
to
robust Turkish
address the
presence in
Turkish
Syria will pose significant
presence in
challenges for
Syria?
Israel and for our Kurdish allies
Senator,
and must
at
be
this
addressed.
point,
So how will you work
I only have
to
available to
address
me
the Turkish
what I read
Turkish
in
presence
non-classified
in Syria?
information.
Excuse me.
And I'm not evading the question. I'm
Senator,
trying to be
at this point,
responsive. I just
only
don't
have
have the
available to
facts
me
yet. What
You're
I
willing
read
to
in
work with us on that?
non-classified information.
Absolutely.
And I'm not
Thank
evading
you.
the
I
question.
want to
I'm
get to
trying
you now,
be
Mr. Stevens,
responsive.
to talk about
I
the
just
Five
don't
Eyes.
have the facts yet.
I've asked a very similar
willing to work
question
with
to
us on
Ambassador
that?
Hoekstra
Absolutely,
earlier this
Senator.
month.
Thank you.
I'd like
I
to
want
hear
to
your
get to you
thoughts
now, Mr.
as well.
Stevens, to talk
Five
about
Eyes
the Five
Alliance
Eyes.
is one of the most successful
I've asked a very similar
intelligence
question to
sharing
Ambassador Hoekstra
alliances
earlier
in the
this
world.
month.
I'd like to hear your thoughts
It's been key
as
to the
well.
success of our
The
military
Five Eyes
responses,
Alliance is one of the most
including Syria,
successful
Iraq,
intelligence
Afghanistan,
sharing
and yet
alliances
the
in the
Trump
world.
administration has
It's been
taken
key.
actions that have
It's been
caused
key to
our
the success
allies
of our military
to
responses,
reconsider what
including in Syria,
information
Iraq,
can be shared
Afghanistan,
with the United
and yet
States.
the Trump administration
So, Mr.
has taken
Stevens, the
actions
Five
that
Eyes
have
Alliance
caused
is
our
based on a
allies
high
to
level,
reconsider
high
what
level
information
of mutual trust. So do you think it makes us safer, stronger, or more secure if our partners and allies decide to scale back the intelligence they share with us out of concern that they can't trust the United States? So do you think it makes us safer, stronger, or more secure if our partners and allies decide to scale back the intelligence they share with us out of concern that they can't trust the United States? How will you make sure that we are resilient and Five Eyes remains operational, excuse me.
Thank you, Senator, for that.
I'll ask you the follow-up to how will you make sure that we are resilient and Five Eyes remains operational, excuse me.
Of the information they share with us, but I am not aware.
What would you base that on? Because it appears that they have been a little nervous about sharing information with us in light of recent events.
But I am
what would you base that on? Because it appears that they have been a little nervous about sharing information with us in light of recent events.
Unclassified. Well, I was referring to perhaps something that's classified that I haven't been able to read. Goes back basically starting with the UK and unclassified World War II. Importance was critical. Five Eyes, and I think in the Allies, Five Eyes goes back basically starting with the UK and the US. Both the UK and the US critical. Realize and the Allies one of the key prevailing components of our special the UK and the US, and realize that can help strengthen key components of our special any relationship. Reluctance to share intelligence help strengthen that in the Five Eyes, but unaware of any if that reluctance to share to be the case. I would certainly do what I could in the Five Eyes, but not if that to assure them. It turns out that they don't case. I would certainly do what I could. They shouldn't.
I think that'll be something that we'll have to talk about probably once you're confirmed.
They don't need to be
I just want to talk, Mr. Fertitta, just a little bit about infrastructure in the Mediterranean. I think that'll be something that we'll have to talk about. The sea contains an array of underwater cables that connect Europe, Africa, I just want to talk, Mr. Fertitta, just a little bit about infrastructure in the Mediterranean. The sea contains an array of underwater cables that connect Europe, Africa, and Asia, and it's a competition across the region. So if intensifies, we really have to protect this critical role in the Mediterranean to strengthen their military capabilities and support a bolstering deterrence along NATO southern flank. The Italians who play a critical role in the Mediterranean to strengthen their military capabilities and support a bolstering deterrence along NATO southern flank.
And so much moves underwater today as Italy and the United States and both realize how important America realizes and that so much moves underwater today as it does in space to continue to be so supportive of this and America realizes that not only Italy but all of the NATO countries how important it is to continue to be so supportive of this. The Italian government protecting that from how important it is to America, and we'll make sure that truly work hard. If there's any issues whatsoever, I will be on top of the Italian government to assure how important it is to America, and we'll make sure that if there's any issues whatsoever, I will be on top of it.
Chairman, thank you. I'm just struck by the quality of the nominees that President Trump has put forward to be our ambassadors. Chairman, thank you. Across the board, and I'm just struck by the quality examples again of the nominees that President Trump has put forward business leaders, to be our ambassadors to represent our great country around the world. So thank you. Thank you for examples again of extraordinarily qualified Bareric, business leaders with business. One of the primary responsibilities to represent our great country of an ambassador. So thank you. Thank you is working to develop a positive trade and economic relationship. One of the primary responsibilities of an ambassador is working to develop a positive trade and economic relationship between the United States, U.S. trade relations post. If confirmed, how do you plan to work with Turkey to advance U.S. trade relations?
Looking forward to visiting the Bozeman Stampede. Thank you, Senator. Thanks for Turkey is a great opportunity. Spent with me to visit. It was the I really enjoyed it. Pulse beat and the heartbeat of the Spice Road. And the Silk Turkey Road, is a great opportunity. The center it was the interconnection of cultures, of religions, of races, the Spice Road that was going from and the Silk Road. It was always the center of interconnection of cultures. And my belief is that it can once again be trade that was going from energy to west and vice transport, manufacturing. And my belief is that it can once again be Senator Rich indicated energy. We have lots of issues. Transport, chop through manufacturing to get there, and defense. Energy being, Senator Risch, one of the key starters. We have lots of issues that we have to Turkey itself is at a deficit of energy, but has been a energy being one of the key starters, liquefied natural gas. Turkey itself is at a deficit of energy, but has been a large importer with the current natural gas. War originally came upsets through Russia. It started to rely on the U.S. So 60% of the LNG is now coming from Cheniere, Exxon, and Mobil. War and upsets in Ukraine. Amazingly, Turkey has the U.S. So 60% of the LNG can be now coming from Cheniere, through its free-floating U.S. gas distribution. Amazingly, Turkey has a new spice for more gas to Europe. Can be a reshipping which also provides Europe free-floating another shield gas distribution terminals as a hub. Defense, for more gas to Europe, media, which also provides Europe are all areas in partnerships with American companies, which is also aerospace, strategic international interface to keep China, are all areas in the Belt and Road Initiative with American companies, which is also the opportunity. A strategic international we can reach the stated goal. President Trump and President Erdogan to try and get to $100 billion. Is the opportunity shared trade. So I believe that we can reach the stated goal, President Trump and President Erdogan, to try and get to $100 billion.
Bareric, thank you. Mr. Fertitta,
shared trade.
Mr. Bareric brought up energy.
A year. We're at about
and I want to talk about that a little bit as it relates to Italy.
Bareric, thank you.
But I will say I was very happy to see Prime Minister Maloney's recent comments dismissing, and I want to talk about that a little bit as it relates to Italy. Italy has to choose. But I will say I was very happy to see Prime Minister Maloney's recent comments dismissing that Italy can cultivate a better relationship between the United States and Europe, and with Europe at the same time. Completely agree. Important that Italy can cultivate a better relationship with the United States regarding energy. Italy has several floating storage and regasification units. Ambassador, if confirmed, probably maybe it's regarding fitting energy. Italy has several floating from storage and regasification units. Capitals of the world. Probably anymore. Maybe it's only fitting next ambassador to Italy. Providence, the guy from Houston with the United States, arguably one of the energy capitals of the world anymore, will be our next ambassador to Italy. How could Italy partner with the United States?
Thank you so much for that,
to
Senator.
ensure energy security.
Prime Minister Maloney continues to speak out and show what an ally of the United States that she is. Prime Minister Maloney we truly appreciate that as a country. Speak out and show what an ally from an energy standpoint she is, and we would love we truly appreciate Italy that to as a country do a lot more business with from an energy standpoint and not buy so we would much love energy from Libya and other countries. Do a lot more business. This is something that with our American companies. I've thought about not buying so much energy and in talking to Houston oil companies. I look forward. This is something that to bringing the two together. I've thought about knowing so many of the CEOs and in talking to Houston oil companies. I look forward to meet with the Italian government, bringing the two together, and knowing so many of the CEOs to see what we can do to create more business and meet with the Italian government from $45 billion to make it a lot less. To see what we can do to create more business with the Italian government. Take that trade gap from $45 billion to make it a lot less. We should be doing a lot more business with the Italian
energy security is. It ties right to national security, and the world will be a lot safer since the Ukraine invasion. The United States and these other countries is security is energy, ties right to national security, and the world will be a lot safer. My final question here for Mr. Stevens: relation with the United States. The UK has long been one of the U.S. closest defense and intelligence partners. Trade. My final question here for Mr. Stevens. The UK has long been one of the U.S. closest defense and intelligence partners. Could you please speak to the importance of the United States for fulfilling its commitments to the UK foreign military sales? To make my question short, could you please speak to the importance of the United States fulfilling its commitments to the UK foreign military sales?
You've given me as this process has gone on. Senator Daines, and again, I appreciate the time you've U.S. given me and UK. As this process is Chairman Risch mentioned it with AUKUS. I mean, the U.S. we're doing our best as a country, I think, and I think the Trump administration Chairman Risch mentioned to grow closer militarily. We're to the UK, doing our best as a country, I think, and I think the Trump administration is to grow. I don't closer militarily of our commitments to the UK. I know provide the British military. I don't know the specifics with their needs. I know commitments to just from reading the what I can provide. British military says with their needs while they're trying to increase their defense spending from reading 2.5% what I can. It should be British military. I know President Trump thinks it should be more. While they're trying to increase their defense spending 2.5%, but GDP, I think it should be 3%. I know President Trump thinks it should be more, and I wouldn't argue with that. In my view, Senator, but I think unless it involves some double secret, triple secret technology, in my view, Senator, just don't want to share. I would urge unless it involves some fulfill every double secret, triple secret with the weapons and the systems just don't want to share. I would urge the United States to fulfill every commitment it has to provide the UK with the weapons and the systems that it needs.
First, I just want to make a very basic point, and that is the responsibilities that you all will bear if you're confirmed as our U.S. ambassadors. First, I just want to countries is one of the greatest very basic ever carry on your shoulders. The responsibilities that you will bear if you're confirmed in the world. You will be the senior ambassadors to each of your respective countries. Is one of the greatest weights you'll ever carry on your shoulders. Those countries looking to you because you will represent the greatest nation in the world. First, I'd like to start with you to talk about Turkey in your host country. I think Turkey finds itself, and again, the host country is a very interesting crossroads. On the one hand, first I'd like to start with you, they find themselves deeply involved in the Ukraine-Russia finds itself, and a very interesting crossroads. On the other hand, they're also, given their location, they find themselves deeply involved in the Ukraine. Specifically, you had conversations earlier about what's taking place. On the other hand, Syria. They're also, I think it's going to require a major approach in the Middle East, capable approach. Specifically, you had conversations earlier about what's taking place looking forward to Syria, or how you envision. I think it's going to require managing the relationship approach as you navigate these capable approach. And I'd love to hear your comments about how you're looking forward to, or how you envision managing the relationship in Turkey as you navigate these
elegantly
challenges.
as you conducted the ambassadorship. I hope that if I'm fortunate enough to have that job that I can do. The Turkey situation in Ukraine is a great example. The ambassadorship in Japan. Of the push and pull of what we need to do. The Turkey situation in Ukraine is a great example. It's famous Bareric, of the push and pull of what we need to do. Turkey supplied the beginning of the conflict. Its famous negotiated TB2 and mediated the Ukraine grain deal, and it consistently, at the very beginning of the conflict, maintains the negotiated and mediated the Ukraine grain deal and of ships, warships, cargo ships up and down the Black Sea. Maintains the Montreux Treaty on the access. Syria's been of ships, warships, cargo ships up and down the Black Sea. The entire region's side. The policy that's in front of all of us, Syria is undecided. The entire region's side, access to any classified information as to what our policy is. Of all of us with Syria is undecided. But I think the process has to be, I don't have a total government solution. Access to any classified information as to what our policy is. Part of my job, process has to be a total government solution, and is to bring all of the counterparts together. Part of my job, if I'm fortunate enough to say what is our policy with regard to all of these issues, to bring all of the counterparts together, agency by agency, for the executive branch on one hand, our policy with regard to all the other issues. It's impossible be negotiating these issues for decades. So the executive branch on one hand, I think we have an opportunity out of all of the to be negotiating these issues for decades. So I think we have an opportunity out of all of actually getting something done. Plethora of crises my attitude is around us to serve at the will of, to have everybody feel an urgency President Trump actually getting something done. To try and my attitude is create an architecture to serve at the will of viable solutions along with Trump and all of the constituencies who to try and stir and create an architecture of some thoughts of viable solutions along with the idea of the constituencies. We don't have time. Been delegated diplomacy is the last stop, and than to execute swiftly and properly with the idea, and that would be my attitude. We don't have time.
Thank you. I want to move
Diplomacy
quickly
is
to you.
the last stop.
First, I would like to comment
blood
on
on the
the
boots.
issues that have been raised with
And
the
that would
Five
be my
Eyes.
attitude.
Thank you. To make a very I'm going to move quickly to you statement. Warren, you have an incredible role to play in the relationship as ambassador. Issues that have been raised. I would encourage you to do what I did when I was ambassador. To have a regular meeting. I did it every month. I had a breakfast every meeting. You have an incredible role to play in the relationship as ambassador. And worked very aggressively. I would encourage you to do what I did when I was ambassador. And have a regular meeting. I did it every month. I had a breakfast every meeting with my Five Eye have the access to the information that you need. And worked very aggressively to make certain that we stayed that tight in a critical region. I will also say this: the United States has an incredibly disproportionate. You will have the access to information advantage because of the breadth and ability and extent of our defense posture around the world. I will also say this: the United States will be in a place where I think every one of our allies will want to cooperate with us because of the breadth and extent of our defense posture around the world. With respect to the Five Eyes pieces, we will be in a place where I have every one of our allies will want to cooperate with us. I'm certain that you can encourage. But it has to do with information sharing, and that has been the integrity of their communications. With respect to the Five Eyes piece as well, one concern I have specifically about the UK, which I think is of Huawei. But it has to do with information sharing, and that has been the integrity of their communication. Take a very hard look and make certain. We talked extensively about the presence of Huawei, ZTE, and also foreign military sales were raised. I would encourage you to take a very hard look for us to tighten our bonds. The systems are clean with our allies like the UK. I would encourage you to go also foreign military sales get your arms around what the foreign military sales opportunity for us to tighten our bonds and look for the allies like the UK. Improve that. I would encourage you to go in as soon as possible to get your arms around. And then finally, with respect to AUKUS process looks like. I understand there, and look for ways to improve that in terms of Chairman Risch, that you're limited in what you can say right now, but I would encourage you to support that. I understand can, and if you see opportunities for us to be supported back here on this committee, that you're limited in what you can say right now, but I would encourage you to support that every way you can, and if you see opportunities, particularly for us to be supported back here on this committee, joint R&D, I think you've got broad support here, helpful back here to make that relationship thrive and Tilman, I'd like to come to you and just see you join R&D. Concern could be helpful back here to make that happen. Came to me in 2019. I vividly recall Tilman, the Italian ambassador in Japan, coming to me to tell me that Italy was going to enter China's Belt and Road Initiative. In 2019, I vividly recall. I think Italy suffered tremendously. The Italian ambassador to Japan coming to me to tell me that Italy was going to enter a very China's Belt and Road Initiative. Dealing with China, I think Italy suffered tremendously in 2023 through the pandemic. Even though they pulled out of the Belt and Road Initiative, I thought that was dealing with China. Yet at the same time, they have now entered into some type of bilateral. And even though they pulled out of the Belt and Road Initiative to deepen economic cooperation, that was a wise move. My concern is that they have now entered yet another economic bilateral that the CCP can utilize either against an ally like Italy or against cooperation. And my concern is that creates yet another economic lever treat the China challenge. The CCP can utilize either against an ally like Italy or against the EU.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to any comment you might have with respect to how you're going to treat the China challenge.
You know, I was glad to see that they
be confirmed.
Withdrew from the Belt and Road in 2023. And I'm concerned that there's still 11 I was glad to see that they set up around withdrew Italy from the Belt and Road in 2023. They aren't willing to. And I'm concerned that there's still 11 Chinese service centers set up around Italy. But what I do feel is they aren't willing. Their number one ally is the United States of America. It's something that I'm going to monitor extremely. But what I do feel is I think all their number one ally is for some reason want to keep their foot in the door with China. It's something that all countries besides Italy I think all countries monitor very closely. Keep their ambassador over there. China, if confirmed, it's something that all countries besides Italy I will get up every single day and monitor very closely, and its ambassador over there, if confirmed.
And thanks to the entire panel for their
I will get up every single day and worry about
Godspeed.
to make sure we remain their number one ally.
Senator Van Hollen. And thanks to the entire panel for their presence here today, and I wish you the very best of luck and Godspeed.
Mr. Brock, it was good to talk to you the
Senator
other
Van
day
Hollen.
In my office. Thank you. Appreciate all the issues that we covered. Congratulations to all of you. One of the issues that we discussed was the fact that President Erdogan recently arrested his major political rival. One of the issues that the mayor discussed was the fact that President Erdogan the very day recently the mayor of Istanbul declared that he was going to be a presidential candidate. The mayor of the major opposition Istanbul party. He did it the very day thousands and thousands of people declared that he was going to be over 2,000 Turks detained major opposition. So I was looking to see if the Trump administration had said thousands and thousands of people had taken to the streets. Secretary Rubio was asked about Turks detained. And frankly, his answer, so I was looking to see if the Trump administration had said President Erdogan about this, and I saw that he didn't talk about democracy, he didn't talk about human rights, and frankly, he talked about his answer made it sound like he was channeling President Erdogan. Well, of course, we want he didn't talk about democracy. Stability is always the priority. He talked about authoritarian leaders. We want stability. Stability is the priority of dictators. Well, of course, we want and what has set America apart is stability is always the priority of authoritarian democracy, and stability is the priority of channeling. And what has set America apart is that we also, I found extremely support for democracy, but maybe not surprising. To see him channeling, Trump has called Erdogan, President Erdogan, sort of defense of this action. I found extremely it appears that this is the kind of leader, but maybe not surprising. Donald Trump has called Erdogan those that sort of disregard the law. And it appears that this is the kind of leader I was thinking, I know Senator Shaheen raised this, that appreciates. If you're President Erdogan, sort of disregard the law, and you're watching what's happening to this Turkish student I was thinking, I know Senator Shaheen raised this, who is whisked off the street Erdogan, and by individuals what's happening to this Turkish uniform, some of them in masks, and literally disappeared, who is whisked off the street because by individuals who said or wrote no identifying about what's happening in masks, and literally disappeared. This is something that Erdogan will because see of something and say, she said or wrote. He'll be unhappy that it was a Turkish about what's happening in Gaza. But he will say, you see, this is something that Erdogan will see and say, and it's hard to be unhappy that it was a Turkish. So I don't have a question in this part, but he will say, you see, but I hope what they're doing right there in America, because when we start channeling, so I don't have a question in this part of locking up the mayor and say, I hope you will take that back. Hell, because when we start channeling, let's just lock Erdogan's defense of locking up the mayor and say this is all about the United States. We just want stability in my mind. Those 2,000 demonstrators, let's just lock them all up. I certainly hope not. That's not what whisking away a student, in my mind. And I don't think it's what we stood for. As you know, in yours, visitors to this country, yes, they are privileges, but they are protected by the First Amendment. Whisking away a student, and there's no evidence that that First as you know, visitors to this country, yes, they are privileges, but they are protected. So I know that the chairman, Senator Risch, asked you about and there's no evidence that that made it very clear that it's a bipartisan position, has been, that Turkey. So I know that the chairman, Senator Risch, asked you about the F-35s, or made it very clear because it's a bipartisan position, has been, that Turkey. You understand that's a bipartisan, should not get the F-30. Simple yes or no. Fives because they have the S-400s?
Senator,
you understand that's a bipartisan
and thank you, by the way, for the discussion we had, because I found it stimulating and a lot to think about. And I'm not evading your question. And thank you, by the way, for the discussion we had. S-400 has been an issue that you have dealt with. Stimulating body has dealt with. And a lot to think about. Previous administration has dealt with. It was dealt with. S-400 has been an issue that you have dealt with. The acquisitions in 2016. Previous administration has dealt with.
Mr. Barr, I am interrupting you. I apologize.
Since
it was good to meet with you in the office so we could discuss these things in greater length, but I have a very short amount of time. So, Mr. Barr, my question was whether you recognize that it was good to meet with you in the office. Preventing the transfer of the F-35s, but I have a very short amount of time. So, bipartisan. My question was whether you recognize that if you don't want to give a direct yes or no. Preventing the transfer of the F-35s pursuant to 231 was a bipartisan requires very detailed legislative if you don't want to give a direct yes or no.
And it's not simply I'm aware that CATS at 231
because I wanted in my remaining time to talk about Syria, and we had a good detailed legislative I said, I think the risks of not trying to seize that, because I wanted in my remaining time to talk about Syria, and we had a good conversation with Syria. As I said, always reimpose sanctions. I think the risks of not and obviously Turkey has a major role to play, including with respect to the Syrian Kurds. So are great. My final question always reimpose sanctions. Would you agree that our Syrian Kurdish and obviously Turkey has a major role to play, essential, including with respect to the Syrian Kurds? So in the fight against ISIS. My final question to you is: would you agree that our Syrian Kurdish allies have been essential partners for the United States in the fight against ISIS?
Or deny? Senator, quite honestly, sensitive issue that I don't really have to the executive branch, the policies, practices, and procedures of this body to make those determinations. It's such a sensitive issue that I defer to the executive branch, the policies, practices, and determination of this body to repeat your question. Determinations. This is not within my wheelhouse. For me to render an opinion on the value of whichever Syrian entity we're talking. To repeat your question, I could ask you to be
the SDF.
For me to render an opinion on the value of, I do not have the information to take whichever Kurdish entity we're talking about.
Well, thank you. The SDF, I see my time is out, but I think, again,
I just do not have the information to take that.
It's a shared view. Certainly, I've teamed up with Senator Graham on legislation on this. I see my time is out, but I think we need to make sure that on a bipartisan basis, we don't throw our Syrian, I've teamed up with Senator Graham on friends and allies and partners under the bus. We need to make sure that, thank you, we don't throw our Syrian, Kurdish friends and allies and partners under the bus.
I know we're running long, but I do have a few more questions. And I would just, to follow up on as Syrian Democratic Forces, I did have a chance to visit Syria. I know we're running long, but I do have a few more questions. And I would just
Senator
follow
Graham,
up on the Syrian Democratic
during the first Trump administration,
and we heard
Syria
very strongly from
with
our military leaders,
Senator Graham,
Syria, about the importance of
during
the
first Trump administration,
and we heard very strongly from our military leaders.
I think that's something that
Syria
generally has
bipartisan support and agreement to our mission there.
Agreement from our military leaders.
I don't think we should feel uncomfortable that
generally has bipartisan
support and agreement.
I had the opportunity to
say that also to President Erdogan.
So I don't think
while he did not agree with me,
acknowledging that,
he listened to what I had to say.
I had the opportunity
I want to go back
say that
to
also
to President
Erdogan,
because
and while he did not agree with me,
you would serve as the ambassador
to what I had
to
to
the
say.
United Kingdom.
I want to,
but President Trump has also
Mr.
appointed
Stevens,
a special envoy,
because
Mark Burnett,
if confirmed,
someone who's reported
as the ambassador,
also be a
to the
close
United
personal
Kingdom.
friend of the president.
But President Trump has also
appointed a special envoy.
So, if
Mark
confirmed,
Burnett,
can you
talk a little bit about how you would
also
work
be a
with
close
Mr.
personal
Burnett
friend of the
and
president
President Trump to ensure that
to serve
you're
as
not
a special envoy?
overlapping
So,
efforts
if confirmed,
and duplicating
can you talk a little
the
bit about
work that
how
you're
you
trying
would
to
work
do
with
Mr. Burnett
the UK
and President Trump to ensure that you're not overlapping
thank you,
efforts
Senator.
and duplicating
I think
the work that you're trying to do
both
with the UK?
Mark Burnett, the special envoy that thank you, Senator.
Do you know Mr. Burnett?
I have met him. We are not Burnett, the special envoy that you mentioned briefly.
Do you know Mr. Burnett?
I have met him. Seems very nice. We're not. We have stayed in touch as much as we can briefly. But the bottom line is, frankly, seems very nice. If I'm confirmed, we stayed in touch as much as we can, representing the president. The bottom line in the United States, we both. If I'm confirmed, I will be the ambassador. I am nominated to be the representing the president and the United States. But I will be. I can work the ambassador. I am nominated to be the ambassador of the embassy. And in the UK, and confident in the special envoy Burnett with really all of the embassy U.S. in the agenda, in the UK, and the president's agenda, and special envoy
and
Burnett,
I have no doubt that that's the case, given your history of running your business.
Agenda
I guess my concern
agenda.
is more. Well, thank you.
How you
and I have no doubt that
responsibilities
being
delineated
between those two roles.
So
the British
are not
my concern is
about
more
what we're doing.
How you envision the responsibilities being delineated between those two roles, so that the British are not confused about what
I really don't know what the envoy special envoy has been doing for that, Senator. But I really don't know what the envoy special envoy has been doing. I envision it to be my responsibility. And to the extent Mark of has been working on things and can be helpful to be my responsibility. Certainly engage him with that, but I'll also to the extent all members have been working on staff things and can be helpful and useful. I'll certainly engage him with that, but I'll also use all of the
United Kingdom
members
has
of the staff at the embassy to do the same.
Leadership on Ukraine since Russia's illegal invasion. The United Kingdom has consistently shown leadership on Ukraine since Russia's illegal
concern
invasion.
about how negotiations roll out,
and I think
ending that war.
Can you speak to now as what you believe is
a concern about how negotiations
of Ukraine's
roll out
future to the UK and the rest of Europe?
Ending that war.
Can you speak to what you believe is the
Senator,
importance of Ukraine's future to the UK and the rest of Europe?
The first order of business is to stop the killing in Ukraine, and it's been a
Senator,
vicious war. The first order of business is to stop the killing. Anytime any country can attack another one, I think, and get away with it, it sets a very bad example for the rest of the world. And so country, I think, finding a way to attack another one, the conflict, and get away with it, it sets a very bad example for the rest of the world. And so will allow, I think, finding a way to end the rebuilding process as quickly and as Ukraine to begin as we can. And the UK has been a leader not only in providing rebuilding process in Ukraine weapons and support, military support, and the UK has been a leader in aid, not only others, but they've also taken the lead on weapons and support, reconstruction, military support, but also talks, humanitarian aid, and others. But they've also taken the lead on UK and all of these see reconstruction as a very talks that are beginning. Very important part. So I think the future UK and all of Europe sees Ukraine is extremely important to them, as it is to the United States. Very important part of their future, and how this ends is extremely important to them, as it is to the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member, for this hearing.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman. I'd like to submit a March 20th Economist article entitled "Europe Needs to Spend More on Defense, Not Pretend to." Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit a March 20th Economist article entitled "Europe Needs to." Lately, one of the things that I have more on defense, not common theme in Europe, is that Europe recognizes they have to do more for their own defense. Lately, one of the things that I have the Baltic states have been doing that for years. A common theme in Europe is that, and currently countries like Germany have taken more steps to be able to start spending more on their own defense. Poland and the Baltic states have been doing that for years. Haven't got the message out to some countries. Currently, countries like Germany have taken bold steps to be able to start exempting member states' defense spending from fiscal restrictions. Some appear more concerned by what countries they can reclassify as the EU grapples with exempting member states' rather than defense spending from fiscal restrictions. Some appear more concerned. Spain, for example, has argued that defense spending should include broader civil defense rather than actually spend such as military readiness. Spain, for example, has Italy has said that measures related to economic and broader civil defense costs, such as climate change. You actually need hard assets like bullets to be able to shoot. Italy has said that measures related to economic competitiveness. Now, I realize defense spending isn't just a matter of you actually need hard assets like bullets to be able to shoot. You can't shoot climate change. For example, Italy hosts 30,000 military personnel. Now, I realize defense spending isn't just a matter of the Navy's Sixth Fleet and percent of GDP. It's not the only panacea. However, when countries which still haven't met the 2%, Italy hosts 30,000 military personnel that was set over a decade ago, as well as the Navy's resort to accounting tricks to weaken our collective defense. However, when countries which still haven't met the 2% NATO target, transatlantic alliance that was set over a decade ago. Mr. Fertitta, President Trump has called on our NATO allies to get to 5% of the GDP on defense. If confirmed, what actions will you take to ensure Italy not only meets but exceeds the 2% NATO President Trump has called on our NATO allies to get to 5% of the GDP on defense capability. If confirmed, what actions will you take to ensure Italy not only meets but exceeds the 2% NATO target and is committed to making serious investments?
Italy, like so many of the NATO countries, are trying to use some fuzzy math to get to their 2%, and Italy, like so many of the NATO countries, are trying to. Italy has always been one that has to get to their 2%, and one of the first. I hope one day we could get them all to 5% when we need them to send them somewhere. Italy has always been one that has been an ally. I do respect that. One of the first to always send troops that they step up when we need them to send them somewhere. We should give them some credit for that. They were at 1.5%. They're at 1.6%. They also spend a lot on. And we should give them some credit for that. With the issues they were at 1.5%. In Libya, and even having an island. They also spend a lot on of Tunisia, where they've had to set up the issues of having Tunisia, processing centers, in Libya, and even having an island just 70 miles off the coast of Tunisia, so many where they've had to set up that area to stop the migration, processing centers, all of Europe, and not just Albany, and so. Put so many patrol boats in that area to stop the migration. Some of their elements of all of Europe, not just saying our 1.6% is where I understand it's absolutely not enough. Some of their elements, something with saying our 1.6% I've got to sit down with their government enough. It's absolutely not enough. Understand their budget with more so, especially their I've got to sit down with their government if they will share it, work with them, and understand their budget to increase their 1.6. Especially their we have got to get it at 2%. If they will share it with me. My turn there that is a personal goal of mine increase their 1.6. Get them from the 1.5, we have got to get it at 2%. It's something by the time my turn there that is a personal goal of mine for the United States to get them from the 1.5. I just want you to know what's on my radar screen. And I plan to do whatever I can do to help serve the government there for the United States.
I appreciate that.
I just want you to know what's on my radar screen, and I plan to do whatever I can do.
Diego Garcia is the largest island in the Chagos Archipelago. I appreciate that. Has been home to a strategic joint U.S.-UK military base for decades. Diego Garcia is the largest island in British territory. The base is critical U.S. air has been home to a strategic joint U.S.-UK military base for decades. Given its key location in Diego Garcia, British territory, the base is critical U.S. air and naval operations. Despite this, in the Indo-Pacific Biden administration, just last week, Biden administration, UK struck a deal last October to transfer Chagos to deter further Iranian malign aggression. The deal was sold as protecting British and American interests of the guise that the UK would retain control of Diego Garcia. The UK struck a deal last October to transfer Chagos to Mauritius. However, Communist China is expanding was sold as protecting British and American interests under the guise that the UK would retain control of Diego Garcia would put our base under their threat. However, the deal is ratified. It could allow Communist China to be able to maneuver ships and planes relations with Mauritius. Diego Garcia for intelligence gathering. Put our base under their threat. Beijing. If the deal is ratified, it could allow Communist China to be able to maneuver ships and planes done in the South China Sea. Garcia for intelligence. Mr. Stevens, the UK foreign Beijing, UK foreign militarized nearby said, if President Trump doesn't like the deal would not go forward. While Mr. Stevens, the UK foreign, do you believe the pending UK foreign minister Lammy said, if President Trump doesn't like the deal would not go forward.
Well,
while negotiations are still ongoing, do you believe the pending UK Mauritius deal is in our best interest?
About the negotiations there, just as a thank you, Senator, person who can obviously read a map. What I know is what I read in the press about the base for the United States there, just as we've the military has used obviously many missions for many years. Very key base for the United States. I know the administration, the military has used considering many missions for many years. I am confident that they will come to the right decision. I know the administration is considering it, whether to approve that deal or not. But I'm confident that they will come to the right. It's a critical little piece of land to approve for that both the UK and deal or not the U.S. It's a critical little piece of land. The administration, both the UK and the U.S. the proper conclusion. But I have to. We'll go forward from there.
And do you share my concern about Communist China and the threats around there?
We'll come to the proper conclusion. Senator, I share go forward from there. Your concerns
do you share
about
my concern
China,
about Communist
not only
China
around there, but everywhere. Senator, I share your concerns about China, not only around there, but all of our minds, but everywhere.
Well, I do think that, again, this is a bad deal for us, and that the administration should work with the UK to make sure that we retain that. Well, I do think that, again, this is a bad deal for us, and very unhappy with the Panama Canal Treaty, work with the UK to another version of that. To make sure that we retain for indulging me to let me go along possession there. And just harking back to President Trump seems to be very unhappy with the Panama Canal Treaty, and this seems like another version of that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for indulging me to let me go along.
All have had exceptionally successful business careers. And I appreciate your willingness to serve. Welcome all three of you. I will say the three of you all have had exceptionally successful critically important countries. And I appreciate your willingness to serve. I appreciate your service to the country. Mr. Bareric, I want to start with you. As you know, the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants against Israeli officials. Bareric, I want to start with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. As you know, the International Criminal Court has issued against Hamas arrest warrants against Israeli officials, disgraceful, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and they're breathtakingly dangerous to punish Israel for its campaign against Hamas. The warrants are disgraceful because Israel's war against Hamas, illegitimate, is a legitimate campaign of self-defense in response to the October 7th terrorist attack. The warrants are disgraceful because Israel's war against Hamas stop until they have a legitimate campaign of self-defense in response to the October 7th terrorist attack. Because Israel is not a member of the ICC, I believe that our Israeli allies has no jurisdiction until they have utterly eradicated Hamas. And they pose an acute threat to the safety and security of Americans because Israel is not a member of the ICC, and the ICC would allow the ICC to prosecute American officials and American troops. And they pose an acute threat to the safety and security of Americans because the precedent being set in response to this threat, President Trump issued an executive order. It reads, quote, the United States expects our allies to oppose any ICC actions against the United States. In response to this threat, President Trump issued an executive order. It reads, quote, the United States expects our allies to oppose any ICC actions against the United States, and Erdogan in particular, Israel, or any other ally of the United States in boosting the ICC's campaign to ICC jurisdiction. Erdogan said, quote, however, we support the arrest warrant, and Erdogan in particular have met with the ICC prosecutor responsible for the ICC's campaign, Karim Khan. Erdogan said, quote, we support the arrest warrant for the ICC's attack against Israel. Erdogan met with the ICC prosecutor Erdogan's position puts both him and Karim Khan on a collision course with President Trump for the ICC's attack against Israel. Please talk a little bit Erdogan's about position puts both him and Turkey intend to approach this on a collision course with President Trump and with the United States.
Thank you, Senator.
Please talk a little bit about how, if confirmed, you intend to approach this challenge.
But it would be, please don't get on a collision course with Thank you, President Senator. Trump. That would not be my first advice would not be the welcome wagon to Senator Erdogan. My attitude and intention is don't get on a collision course practices and policies of the United States, of President Trump, of this body. My attitude and intention is simple. The practices and policies of the United States, executor of policy, and President Trump of this body, to within the bounds of whatever diplomatic tools I have available. I'm not a policy maker. Enforce that and executor of policy, and I would intend our position to within the bounds of whatever diplomatic tools I think the executive order is an extremely important first step in countering the threats posed by the ICC. It allows the president to impose powerful sanctions against anyone who directly engages in the effort by the ICC to detain Americans or our allies. It allows the president to impose powerful sanctions against anyone who directly engages in the effort by the ICC. It's vital that they be detain Americans or our allies. The prosecutor with whom Erdogan met has already been sanctioned. Those sanctions were long overdue, Turkish and it's vital that they be enforced to provide evidence to the ICC against the prosecutor with whom Erdogan one of those officials was a former Turkish lawmaker. Last year, Turkish officials and lawyers sought to provide evidence that officials linked to Erdogan and the Turkish government are directly one of those officials was a former Turkish lawmaker from Erdogan's party. Are you concerned that officials linked to Erdogan and the Turkish government are directly boosting the ICC's attack against Israel? I'm actually not aware of in any classified format. My intent is trying to get prepared to look forward on issues that I'm actually not aware of, and it'll have some ability to actually dissect and understand. My intent is trying to get prepared to look forward on issues that facts I don't are impending, and it'll have some ability to actually dissect I'll follow up with you in writing, and so I can't really render an opinion more views. Mr. Fertitta, you talked in your opening statement about the economic opportunity in writing between the United States and Italy and expanding those opportunities. Share your thoughts on the best opportunities economic for more trade and commerce between the United States and Italy and expanding those opportunities.
Thank you, Senator,
Share your thoughts on the best opportunities for growth for more trade and commerce between America and Italy.
Doing business in Italy from America. Thank you, Senator, so much. We need to bring more companies over there, and we need to sell more goods to doing business in Italy from America. It's not only, and we need to bring more companies over there, and we need to sell more goods to Italy. And so one of my huge goals is not only to be to Italy that has wonderful even more companies over there, and at the same time to find a way. And so one of my huge goals is going to be to even more business, get even more companies over there, and at the same time find a way for the companies that are doing business there.
And I can personally attest that last night you were already doing your part with Senator Kelly and me and providing us both with some very fine Italian wine. And I can personally attest, so for the record, that last night you were already doing your part with Senator Kelly and me and providing us both with some very fine Italian wine. Thank you.
Senator Scott.
So for the record, that they do an excellent job of that.
Thank you, Senator Cruz.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Scott.
Mr. Stevens. First off, congratulations. The U.S.-UK alliance is, and I think probably one of our most important alliances. It's been disappointing. The Labour government's treatment of one of our best allies, probably one of our most important alliances. It's been disappointing in the Middle East. In England, the Labour government's treatment of one of our best allies, the state not a solution, even after October 7th. Our most important ally. So as the ambassador in England, are you going to go about the Labour Party treats Israel as a problem British government to try to even after October 7th, educate them or help them? So as the ambassador of Israel, how are you going to go about
thank you, Senator, and thank you for
British government to try to educate them or help them understand the importance of Israel?
Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you for what I've read about that. Spending the time with me in your office, halting some of their shipments to Israel. I have what I've read about that with the UK and halting some of their shipments. Do my part to Israel. Them is certainly concerning. Reinstate those permits and to try to get them. Do my part to encourage them to continue. Reinstate the fight. Those permits and to try to get I'm a little perplexed by why they did that. To continue. I look forward to the fight. Trying to help. I'm a little perplexed present our position. Why they did that? United States position, but I look forward to why they should to trying to help be more supportive. Present our position, meaning the United States position. Congratulations, getting nomination. And why they should.
So you've done a lot of deals in your life. Thank you. What do you think it's going to take for Italy to be more receptive to U.S. companies? So you've done a lot of deals in your life. Opportunities in defense. What do you think it's going to take energy in other areas? Italy to be with your background in U.S. transactions. What's it going to take in a variety of areas? Italy to make it opportunities in better opportunities for American companies in other areas. So with your background in doing transactions, what's it going to take? You think for Italy to make it a better opportunity for American companies to do business in Italy?
That I have received from Italy, I do know this, is that they're very excited about having an American true entrepreneur that I have received from Italy and work with them. Is that they're very excited about when having you look at the trade between the two of us come over there is so much more that can be done with them. And that when you look at we do not have some of the issues of us that my friend so much Bareric has, we should be able to concentrate more. And since we do not have some of the issues that my friend Mr. Bareric has, we should be able to concentrate more. That and they're very, very receptive of doing a lot more business between the United States of America. And they recognize I truly believe that they're very, very receptive. I truly look forward to sitting down with them with the United States of America. They recognize coming up with so many different ways and doing deals. I truly look forward to sitting down. Fortunately, I've confirmed and had a lot of experience coming up with so many different ways through energy, doing deals. Manufacturing, fortunately, I've so many different ways, had a lot of experience chemicals and finding ways, and food and beverage to do so much more business. Manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, even something so many that I know is important to some of y'all, even getting more American beef over there, food and beverage to do so much more business together. Even our product I know is important to some of y'all, even getting more American beef and more of the NATO nations need to enjoy more of the United States. Our products are very, very good in America, been pretty strained, and more of the NATO nations need to enjoy more.
S-400, the role in Syria, Erdogan's publicly threatening the relationship with Turkey has been pretty strained. Warm offers to host Hamas S-400, the role in Syria, but they are a NATO ally, the state of Israel. So, do you think you're going to be able to navigate to bring them back into what we would perceive to be a great NATO ally, or do you think it's NATO ally? So it's going to be impossible. Do you think you're going to be able to navigate to bring them back into what we would perceive to be a great NATO ally, or do you think it's going to be impossible?
I absolutely firstly, thanks for spending the time. I can be enjoyed our conversation and our Texas roots. A small hammer and chipping away at a consistent theme that I can be letting them know a small the best thing for them chipping away at a consistent theme is to adhere to being a great NATO ally. letting them know all of the other interferences over time, the best thing for them long-term need to evaporate, is to adhere to being a great. I think this is just part of what we're dealing in the Middle East. It's a very all of the other interferences over time, a Rubik's Cube need to complexity that needs to be. And I think this is just part of what we're dealing in. But I would not. It's a very complicated zip code ever. A Rubik's Cube of complexity that needs to be taken as a whole. But I would not. If I didn't think, with your help, with President Trump, with a very strong hand, of taking this with the government of Turkey, including President Erdogan, and everybody searching for a solution, with your help, with President Trump, with his very strong hand, with the government of Turkey, including President Erdogan, Ukraine, and everybody searching for a solution at a very delicate moment between Israel, that everybody's got to step back and say, maybe this is the moment for Ukraine, if I could be China, some litmus test in supplying some clarity. Everybody's got to step back and say, maybe this is the moment for sanity. I just wanted to say I'm so grateful to Tilman for being the greatest foreign direct investment clarity by taking the best basketball player that Turkey had. I just wanted to say I'm so grateful to Tilman for being the greatest foreign direct investment in Turkey by taking.
Thank you, Senator Scott, and I want to say thank you to these three nominees today for your testimony, for answering our questions. I'm looking behind you now. Thank you, Senator Scott, to thank your families. I want to say thank you to you all these three nominees incredibly supportive for your testimony, for answering our questions. I'm looking behind you now. Incredibly important to thank your family and your effectiveness, and I just want to express my played an incredibly appreciation for all of your spouses. Before closing, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to add any letters of support the committees received to the record. My appreciation. I'll also note for the information of members that the record will remain open until I'd like to ask unanimous consent to add any letters of support the committees received for members to submit questions for the record. I'll also note for the information of members that the record will remain open until close of business tomorrow, Wednesday, April 2nd, including for members to submit questions for the record. And with thanks of the committee, this hearing is now adjourned.